Oh man, when we get to season 2, there's an episode I love so much that I really want to talk about. Remember Junkie Business? I know we're just already
Which
talking
one?
about King of the Hill,
Which
even
one
though
is
we weren't
Junkie
supposed to yet.
Business?
It's the one where Hank accidentally hires a drug addict to work at Strickland, and he he forgoes a very talented and knowledgeable woman because he's worried that he's too attracted to her.
No.
and
Okay. I
then
think I
and then he
vaguely
hires
remember
and
this.
then he hires this guy because he just seems like a guy's guy. He got along with him even though
Mm.
my favorite quote. Oh man, we're just talking about King of the Hill season 2 before in the cold open of our
In
King of the Hill
the
season
King
1.
season one, yeah.
But one of the things he says that wins Hank over is he goes, next to God, family, and country, my favorite thing in life is propane and propane paraphernalia. It says paraphernalia instead of accessories, which is so good. But man, one of my favorite performances is that character. It's so good. Anyways, King of the Hill's great. We're going to be talking about it a lot today. What should we talk about for
Yeah.
this cold open conversation? Bob's Burgers?
Yeah, they're putting Bob's Burgers on Hulu and HBO
Yeah.
Max apparently
Yeah, and
on
maybe also
July
Disney Plus. It's
12th.
going to be on everything. I don't know.
On everything, man. July 12th.
I
Um,
I recommend if you can go to the
mm,
theater to see it. Go to the theater
yeah.
to see it. Still, it's going to be better and more exciting in the theater. But if you're afraid to get out because of COVID or you can't get out for any other reason, watch it and crank them numbers up on the streaming platforms, baby. It deserves all the love.
It's a good movie,
Deserves all the
man.
love.
It's a really good movie.
Um, it's really fucking good. It's a really good movie. It's really cute, really funny, looks really good. I want to see more 2D animated films in the movie theater in
Yeah.
general.
I don't know. A man could dream though.
Yeah,
I don't know.
a man can dream.
A man can
Man,
dream.
what else is happening? They announced those Avatar movies. I know you're a huge Avatar fan, Tariq. You love the Last Airbender. You're always telling me I love Korra, and I'm like, you are spitting, dude. Korra rules.
You know, the other day I was talking to my roommate's girlfriend because I think it came up because Avatar came up and um long story less long, there was a miscommunication in the conversation. She thought that I was talking about the cartoon, but I was talking about the blue people.
The Blue People. It's a
And
James
I was
Cameron.
like,
Even
oh,
though I'm an apologist for the Blue People Avatar, I hate James Cameron for naming something Avatar after an already excellent
yeah,
thing was called
he did
Avatar.
violate. And I told her, I said, oh, my friend Johnny loves that shit. Like he fucks with Avatar. And then I realized when she thought I was saying, I was like, oh, I guess I was right both times.
You are right.
So
I do fuck with both of them. I
I
fuck with
was
both
right
of them.
both times.
I fuck with Last Airbender a lot more than James
Yeah,
Cameron's
I
Avatar. But
remember.
James Cameron's Avatar, I think the over pendulum swing of people trying to hate on it because it was so successful and like it, granted, like, should it have been the most successful film of all time? I can't say that for sure, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't think it would be getting this much hate if it had been the sixth most successful film of all time. It wouldn't be
Yeah.
getting near this much hate. It's like
No,
people are
yeah.
overcorrecting because it was so successful, which is stupid.
Yeah.
And I watched it in 3D recently with my friend Nelson and our producer Mikey, and I had such a good time. I think the visuals are incredible. I'm really excited for The Way of Water. I have a friend who's working on the sequels, and I think they're going to be beautiful. I think they're going to be really cool. I hope it helps bring 3D back because I don't think 3D should be dead. I don't think it should be. I think there should be a happier medium between everyone watches 3D or nobody watches 3D. At least just have some 3D options, you know?
Yeah, right.
I think it elevates certain media. That being said, if I had to choose between Last Airbender's Avatar and Blue People, it's not even a contest. Uh, Last Airbender and Legend of Korra are two of my favorite shows ever. I love that world so much. The rumors are about these movies, if you haven't heard, now these are not confirmed, but there's an Avatar news site who has done some digging, and they say they are pretty confident that this is the current plan. It's that they have 3 theatrical movies planned, which is bold. Bold, a
Yeah.
little aggressive. I kind of like it. That is, well, that is confirmed. The 3 theatrical movies is confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
The Avatar news site is claiming that the first one will be in 2024, and it will be about Kyoshi, who is the Avatar 2 Avatar cycles prior to Aang. And then the second one will be about Zuko, which I assume would follow the events of the original show, and it would probably adapt the story that is the search for his mother, which was an unresolved plot line in the original show. They did cover it in the comic books and the graphic novels later. I have a feeling they will alter it if they feel the need to. I don't think they need to be beholden to the graphic novels. And then the third would be a Legend of Korra movie taking place after the show, which I think would be great because I love that show, and I think it ends in a place that very much makes me excited to see what comes after it. I like it, just like the world had changed so drastically the moment that show ended, and I was like, I want to see what's now.
Yeah.
And it also felt like she became her real, fully realized Avatar self. Like it felt like it took that whole time for her to really make it there. And then the Kyoshi, I'm all in on. Kyoshi is a great character. There are 2 novels, like young adult novels about her that I've read, and I love those books. I like them better than any of the comics. And there are great characters in them. She's a really interesting Avatar. She's got a really interesting origin. I'm curious if they would adapt that same story or if they would just continue it after those books take place. I kind of hope they continue after because I like the story so much that I'm like, keep it as the books. Those are great. My favorite thing about her story, though, is that, spoilers for those books, there was someone was falsely appointed Avatar without them realizing that she was the actual Avatar in that timeline. They had a really hard time discovering who the next Avatar was, and through some test that they usually give the Avatars, this guy who wasn't actually the Avatar was basically anointed as the Avatar for years. It's really interesting. I actually did a video about that years ago, but I'm excited. I love Avatar so much. I love Avatar Studios. If anyone at Avatar Studios listening to this, hire me. I'll do anything. I'll do anything. I love this shit. I love it. I know the world really well. I promise I can do anything. I'll do anything.
It's funny that yours that's like that is like Avatar, and mine is like, so I don't know, give me Alvin and the Chipmunks. I'll make the best piece of Chipmunks media out there. Just give it to me.
I believe you will, man.
I will.
And you're going to one day.
I hope so. Shit.
You're gonna do it. You're gonna do it.
I hope so. You know what's funny about the blue people? Is that it's, you know, because it's the highest grossing, right? Isn't it still number 1? Or
I think
Endgame
passed it. I think Endgame passed it, but Avatar it's like 2. It's an untouchable number that very unlikely that something else will get up to either of those 2.
Either way, adjusted for inflation, number 1 is still going with the wind by like $500 million.
Right.
And it's so fucking funny. Like, and also adjusting for inflation, I think Avatar is too.
Yeah, you're probably right.
But
the thing with Gone with the Wind, though, is like back then it was like there was like 2 movies a year, right? Like, well, and they're like, we're gonna air this one.
That's not true. Gone with the Wind came out the same year as Wizard of Oz. 1939.
39.
Big year.
Isn't that also Snow White?
I think that's 37.
365 films, 1 per day. They came out with a movie per day in 1939. That's a fact for you.
They used to do shit like that a lot. Yeah, they used to. Cause I think like, man, and I think movies would be in the theater for like a week. Like I don't really know the specifics, but it would be like, it was like some like studios would like I don't know. I'm not gonna try to explain. It's been forever since I've been in film school. Not
Snow White
forever.
came
It's
out in
been a couple of
37. I
years.
was wrong. Was wrong about that one.
Oh fuck! I was
Um,
right. That was a guess. Nice.
yeah, oh, I didn't even hear you.
Yes,
You nailed
37.
it. You nailed it. That was a big year. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington also that year. That's nuts. That's nuts. What a year.
We should
Should we
just on
cover
the
Gone with the Wind
Patreon.
on the pod
Yeah, I'm about
again?
to say on the Patreon. Well, maybe not going with the wind.
Frankly, my dear, I think you're wrong.
I
I'm just
don't.
kidding.
I don't give a damn. We could do. We could do the Wizard of Oz. I almost watched the Wizard of Oz today.
It
I
would be
was very
so
close. I
fucking
was like this
funny to
close.
mock up one of our thumbnails with "Gone with the Wind" with our dumb fucking faces.
the dumbass. Yeah. I was like, wait, what are they doing?
Oh man, that's funny. Speaking of the Patreon, we want to on the main feed. Even though we did this on the Patreon feed, we got a nice little surge in subscriptions to our Patreon over the last few weeks. We want to thank anyone who's done that. That's really cool of you. We couldn't do it without your help. And if you don't know about the Patreon or you're on the fence, we have like 14 bonus episodes or something like that. We covered all the Shreks plus Puss in Boots, Anomalisa, 2 Paddingtons, 2 Teds, 4 Toy Stories, and we've got this week coming out the Toy Story Tunes plus Toy Story of Terror plus Toy Story That Time Forgot. It's like a good collection of stuff, and some of our best podcasting is on the Patreon. Sorry to put it behind the paywall, but we have a lot of fun and we shoot the shit on there. Also, Mikey's a great co-host,
Guys.
so
Yeah,
he does go a long way.
I get confused doing these like, I guess main feed ones without Mikey because I'm so
I
used
know.
to like.
It feels like he's supposed to be here. It's also, to be fair, like we took that hiatus and we were recording way more Patreon episodes than we were main feed episodes.
I got so used to talking to him.
Yeah, I know. Mikey's going to be listening to this, editing this, and he's going to be smiling. He's like, "Yeah, I've made myself an indispensable part of
what if he like
this process."
He splices in like footage of himself just like smiling and like nodding.
He's done that before. There was one where he made a mistake. There was an episode where he made a mistake and said something factually incorrect, and he spliced himself correcting himself. It's pretty funny.
I didn't know he did that.
Yeah.
I usually watch them though. When the fuck did he do that? I usually watch.
I can't remember which one it was. I can't remember. But regardless, you guys should check out the Patreon. It's $5 a month. The way you get them is you can watch them video versions on our YouTube. You get unlisted links, or you get an entire separate feed that you can put onto your podcast apps to listen to all of those bonus episodes. And on top of that, the way we do it here on the main feed is we'll post half an episode, half at a time, part 1, part 2. You'll be getting them all 1 week in advance. You'll be getting them all at once on the Patreon, both video version and audio version. So yeah, it's a pretty, I feel like it's worth it if you like listening to us.
Yeah.
If you want to wait until we've got more content up there, I get it. But you also get an input into what we talk about. You can be a part of the process.
I feel like that's a lot of. That got to be at least like what, like at the very least like 12 hours of content, right? That's a lot of we did a lot of fucking movies.
Every
right?
episode's at least an hour. I'm pretty sure we have
a lot of fucking movies.
We've talked about a lot of movies. I tweeted about it the other day. It's 14 bonus episodes, all the Shreks plus Puss in Boots. But the thing is that like our Shrek 1 episode is like 2.5 hours long.
Yeah, because
every episode is at least. Yeah, we were real drunk for that one. That was pretty fun. Every single episode is at least an hour long. I would be willing to bet that it's closer to 20 hours of content, if I'm being honest. We never do under an hour. Never gave him under an hour. Never gave him under an hour. Even if like we finished the discussion at like minute 45, we found a way to like talk about something else. Let me read off some runtimes. Toy Story 3, hour and a half. Paddington 2, hour 20. Ted, hour 13. Anomalisa, hour 40. Toy Story 4, hour 30. Toy Story 2, hour 20. Ted 2, hour 34. Great episode. Re-listen to our Ted 2 episode. Some of our best work. That movie's baffling.
That's because everybody was pissed off.
Yeah. Paddington 1, hour 10. Puss in Boots, hour 10. Toy Story, hour 44. Shrek 4, hour and a half. Shrek 3, hour and a half. Shrek 2, 2 hours. We went over 2 hours for both the first two Shreks, probably because we were drunk for both of those.
Well, I got too drunk on Shrek 2. I came to the podcast
you
way
couldn't
drunker
even
than
defend
everybody
it
else
against
did.
us well enough.
I did. I did the drunk part of my job way better than everybody else did, and everybody else did the podcast part better than I did. I got them mixed up.
If you haven't seen it, we do have a 40-minute like preview of our first Trek episode up on the YouTube. It might be a good way to check it out, see if it's interested. Although we stopped doing the drinking thing after only a few episodes because
that would kill us.
We were just drinking too much. We were just doing it too much. We had a problem. We had a problem. So check that out. You can recommend us what we should talk about on the Patreon episodes, because we're not really we're trying to make the audience be a part of that. Tweet at us, let us know, sign up.
Tell us what's next, man. Anything but Scooby-Doo, man. Anything but Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, we've got multiple requests for Scooby-Doo, man. We might have to just do it.
Y'all, please don't make me watch the movies.
Why you not like them?
Bro, I watched that first one like a couple years ago, and I was like, I don't think I ever want to see this again.
Oh, no. But Tariq, let me tell you, sounds like a good episode of a podcast.
I don't like talking like that.
Man, we can do a reverse Shrek where Mikey and I are like, nah, this is actually good, and you're gonna be hating on it.
That's gonna be like that class I had in college where my professor told me to watch Batman Begins, and I came back and I was like, fam, why the fuck did you make me watch that? I was so
You didn't
mad.
like Batman Begins?
I didn't like Batman Begins. And
Batman
he was very hurt about it.
That's a bummer.
Sorry,
Christopher Nolan. I know you're a fan. I know you listen to the pod.
Sorry.
He's a cursed one. Okay, cool. Well, we should probably cue the theme song. Talked about a lot of stuff in the cold open. Good, thorough, varied cold open. And now we cue the theme song. Now.
I've been watching them for years. It's always been something that fit with all the animated characters that's doing their own bits. With a fry who's in the future and a family guy that sucks. With a father from a hill, a burger family runs a month. The show inspires is the same guy, except he totally say and diverse.
Let's watch cartoons that curse.
Yeah, that's bananas.
That's rough.
What the fuck is up, everybody? Welcome to Cartoons That Curse, the podcast about cartoons that say swear words, aka adult animated series, our favorites. My name is Johnny Two Cellos. You can call me Johnny or John or Two Cellos or not Jonathan. That's not my name. Really, just run it by me. You can call me what you want, but ask. Just ask.
Call me what you want, but you can't call me broke.
You can call me bro.
Oh, I said broke.
Oh, bro. You can call me
for
broke.
Sure, though.
You'd be wrong, but you can call me broke.
Sure, you can, but you would be wrong.
I'm here with my bro. You can call me bro. Terrific Tariq, my co-host.
Yeah.
How you doing, Tariq? How are you?
So King of the Hill, right? First season.
Season 1. Also, before we start, I want to give another shout out. We shouted them out before, but their podcast is ending, which is a bummer. Did it end already? The Ho Yeah podcast?
Not sure.
It's ended. If it hasn't ended yet, it is ending, which bums me out because it's a great King of the Hill podcast. A great King of the Hill podcast. And we never got to guest on it. I was hoping we got to.
When we first started it,
we should try to get.
When we first started this, they showed us love.
They did. And we have to, I think what we should do at some point, if they're interested, unless they're just King of the Hill themselves out, is if we keep going with King of the Hill, we should try to get them on here, because why wouldn't we, you know? So check out the Ho Yeah podcast if you want more King of the Hill podcast goodness. But we are here to talk about King of the Hill season 1. And King of the Hill was one of the shows Tariq and I bonded over when we became friends. It was this, Futurama, and The Simpsons. I feel like were the big three that we were kind of like geeking out about the most.
Yeah.
And so we have a new little segment. Hold on, I'm gonna move my chair up a bit. Oh yeah, it's better. This is much better. So what we're going to start doing also is our patrons, we decided to start asking them, hey, we're going to cover this soon. Tell us your thoughts on this, and we'll read it out. And we'll kind of discuss that stuff up top. I think we should do that up top. Yeah.
Yeah. Man.
These are our patrons, the cursed ones. So we asked them how they feel about King of the Hill season 1. There's some general stuff. Nathaniel Foga says it's like any first season of a cartoon where it's trying to find its footing. That's very much King of the Hill season 1. We'll discuss it more in depth as we go, but there are a lot of things they do in this season that they don't do later. And
I think that's most of my notes is like, this person would never do this person would never do that.
It's a lot of that. And there's also even just like some choices in how some narrative choices and narrative choices and like structural choices. We'll talk about them as we go. Michael P. McConnell says, personally, I think it's a great introduction into the series, even if it was trying to find its way. The first episode is what got me into the series when I found it on Hulu. Hank's rant to the social worker forever lives in my mind alongside Peggy yelling, vagina. Some of my favorite moments of the show. Very much agreed. Even though there's so much about this first season where I'm like, well, this is different than later. They wouldn't do this at all later. Like, this isn't something to do. There are some episodes in here that I think are so funny. Still great season of TV, even if it feels pretty different than what they do after this. Let's see what else we got. Let's do some shorter comments. And for the future, like, we got some nice, thorough comments here, and we appreciate that. We're happy to read those. But for the podcast's sake, nice concise thoughts for the future. Nice concise thoughts.
They think like, man, they talk for 3 hours anyway, so what's my long ass comment gonna
You're not wrong. Well, it's gonna be 4 hours if we have to read all these. Just kidding. Just kidding. No, these are great. These are great. We love you all. We love every one of you. I mean, there's a lot of people kind of echoing, like, as far as season 1, Mega Z says, as far as season 1 of a show goes, King of the Hill nailed it pretty quick. It does get better, but as far as season 1 goes, it's top tier. I'd say it's a good season 1.
I think it's a good season 1.
Yeah, I mean, there's not. Granted, we also talked about Family Guy recently. You guys haven't heard that episode yet, but we both loved Family Guy season 1. Short, 7 episodes. We talked about Futurama season 1 on here. We both fucking love Futurama season 1. We talked about Simpsons season 1. We love Simpsons season 1. Maybe we're just season 1 people, Tariq. Maybe we like those classic. We like those classic, slightly off feeling, a little rough around the edges first goes.
I like that's my reasoning for liking the first season of The Simpsons for sure. With Futurama, I think like I'm one of those people.
They had a lot of it figured out.
They did have a lot of it figured out, which is also really fucking dope. But I'm one of those people that I like voices before the voice actors figure out the voices. So like old Fry and Bender, like the way that they sound, and I fucking love that. You know what I mean?
Me too.
So there's a lot of that with Futurama.
It feels like with The Simpsons, they all kind of nailed the voices except for Homer changes a bit. It feels like everyone else is pretty consistent. But Homer's doing the Walter Matthau.
Walter Matthau, yeah. But like Margin,
or no, Walter Cronkite, not Matthau. Walter Cronkite, right?
No, it's Walter Matthau, right?
Is it?
Walter Matthau? Yeah.
Homer Simpson, Walter.
What does it say?
No, maybe it is Matthau. Yeah. I don't know.
There's but I mean, Walter like Matthau's Margin, Lisa, like that's just kind of how they talk in real life. So like,
yeah, true.
You're gonna nail those.
Frosty chocolate milkshakes. I love seasons 1s though. This is also all right. Well, let's read a few. You got any on here that speak to you? Any of these comments?
Speak to me.
Well, here's one. I'll just say Hugh HUYH says it's clearly a bit rough around the edges, but you can see the potential in it even still. Yep, totally. A lot of echo this sentiment.
we got James. I really like this season, all things considered, even though you can clearly tell it's the first season. I find it has a unique chill charm,
It does
which
have a
I
unique
could.
charm.
It does, yeah. It has like that. It's funny because King of the Hill doesn't show up on Adult Swim until way later, but this season in
Yeah.
particular kind of feels like Adult Swim somehow.
Oh,
You
yeah,
know
I
what I'm
hear it.
saying?
I don't know if I would call this season chill though. Would you call this season chill?
Nah, man,
There's
Hank is doing a lot of fucking yelling.
Hank is
He's so
angry.
mad. Yeah,
Angry.
he's so mad. The whole is, and that's part of why, like, 'cause, you know, in the show proper, Hank is my favorite character, I think. But like, he's not my favorite in these, like, because he's so like, because that everything I love about him isn't what's here. It's okay. I think my second
We'll go in
favorite
depth,
character
for
was
sure.
always Peggy. So
Peggy's so funny.
Peggy's
But also, like,
great in this.
But Peggy they still also haven't quite found the, like, it feels like they're still exploring the overconfidence in this season, whereas they really lean into it as the show goes on. Like, she's definitely overconfident. There are definitely episodes like the one where the Super Nuisance phones move into town comes to mind, where she's
Right,
always just like,
Boggle.
she's like trying to say she's like giving all these like facts about China that are definitely wrong. So like they were clearly venturing into that territory, but she feels a little less overconfident this season than later. But like, it's clear that they're finding what works about all the characters. They're for sure like moving in there.
Yeah, I do think I think Peggy might be like the most figured out, because a lot of the stuff that like happens to her later on that I thought was just kind of like something they figured out that they wanted to do later on is like here already. Like when the super when Khan and the move,
you got to learn to say Super Nuisance phone, man.
I gave up.
I know it's a hard name.
I gave up. When they move in, Peggy like Min is like making fun of Peggy's feet.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, they do that early?
Yeah. And they also have that whole
thing.
subplot where the whole subplot is just Peggy silently driving to a whole nother city to buy giant shoes so that and with different, so that no one knows what they are. Yeah, they did have that stuff down pretty early, which is funny.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, here's a good
okay.
comment. Metaman says, I love the earnest feeling of the first season of King of the Hill. The muted colors are charming. The characters are way more country than in later seasons. Plots aren't over the top. This season reminds me a lot of season 1 of The Office, because a lot of the characters defining character traits were played way more straight instead of over the top, which is exactly what we were just saying. Not one I revisit, but a solid first season. I think that's a good comment, Metaman. Echoes a lot of things I feel. Yes.
Yeah, especially that comment makes me think about Dale.
Yeah.
Like the conspiracy part of Dale is like very clearly there, but like
not as extreme.
Because
I just watched an episode where he's convinced that his son is an alien. Right. So it starts to fly off the rails for sure.
Which there is a very, very interesting line spoken about Joseph in this season
by Bobby.
That I wrote down by Bobby.
I know which one you're talking about. I know which one you're talking about. We'll get there.
It's by Bobby. I was like, oh, I don't know shit.
It's another situation. We'll talk about it later, but it's another situation where I'm kind of thinking they were still working out what everyone is and knows and the characterizations in season 1. So I don't know if like that holds up long term, but maybe it does. I know which one you're talking about, though. I know exactly what you're talking about.
That's crazy. I was like, what the fuck? Let's see. We got Jared Rodriguez. I feel like when people say King of the Hill is boring, they've only seen like part of a season 1 episode. The early episodes were kind of slow, but still very entertaining.
I think the reason people think King of the Hill is boring is because on the surface it kind of is. And like that's not a slight against it. Like I as a kid liked King of the Hill, but it was always like, oh yeah, Simpsons, Family Guy, Futurama, and I'll watch King of the Hill when it's on. But like those other ones are my
That's what I
shows.
that's really is. I think that like the stigma around King of the Hill comes from the fact that it was sandwiched in between The Simpsons and Family Guy, which are like completely
Big, fun,
outlandish and
bombastic,
exaggerating. It's
silly.
big,
Yeah,
bombastic, exaggerating. Like they can do weird, big stories with a dog and a baby time travel, or like the family gets arrested for killing an alligator. You see what I'm saying? Like they could do like
yeah,
wild stuff like that, and like no, but King of the Hill was grounded. These are just like real people, and when you put that in the middle, like directly in the middle of all of that, like that especially like, you know, Family Guy was really just like The Simpsons was when it first came out. Family Guy was really popular with kids when I was growing up. Like kids
yeah.
around my age, like 10, 11, 12 type shit. So like I don't want to see this like slow thing where you got to get to know the characters. I want to see this
Yes,
thing where they're referencing these movies that my parents watched that I don't even understand. Like, you
for
know what I mean?
sure.
Where they're like cursing at each other and calling each other bitches and shit like that. Like, you know what I mean?
And I think you hit it on the head though. Like getting to know the characters is kind of what makes this show magic. Is once
Yeah.
you truly understand the nuances and the like quirks of
It's
every
50
character,
times funnier.
all of
It's
a
50
sudden
times funnier.
every line makes you
Yes.
laugh. And
Every single line.
that's the magic of the show. Is like once you become so intimately familiar with it, it just becomes so funny.
Yeah.
I
There's been
love that about this.
there's been times because my roommate's been getting into King of the Hill too, and I've just kind of been showing him certain episodes. There's been times where like we've been watching an episode and a joke will like it won't even be a joke. It, like you said, it'll just be like a line that a character says. It's not even really a joke, like in the traditional sense. It's a joke if you know everybody. And a character will say something, and I'll just like burst out laughing, and then like he'll like chuckle, but the chuckle is kind of like a courtesy chuckle because I'm laughing really loud, and then I'll have to
Right.
stop the episode and go like, "No, wait, so like this is what this
That's
means."
really funny. Here's why.
Yeah, like this is why
Um,
it's funny that this character said it, and it always like I can't think of another show that's really like that. But that's what makes the show so cool is that that's what life is, right? Like jokes are gonna be funnier between you and your friends because you know your friends. You know what I mean? Like
right.
y'all got that relationship, y'all got that rapport compared to somebody that's just meeting y'all. You know what I mean? Like not everything that you say is gonna be funny. Not everybody's gonna have that context. But when you in on the joke, you in on the joke, you know?
For sure.
Good fucking cartoon,
Um,
man.
It's a good cartoon. I'm excited to keep talking about it. We got a couple more here I want to say. Waluigi Kin says season 1 of King of the Hill is full of charm. It's a wonderful introduction to the show, and its characters full of classic episodes too. Completely agreed. Lots of charm. Classic episodes in here. All right, here's a long one. Here's a long one.
You wanna
Let me
do that
see
one?
here. What do I want to pull out? Yeah, you want to do it? Why don't you do it? It's
No, I don't wanna do that.
again for the future, just so that these are a little concise. We and also if we get more,
though.
we might have to pick and choose as we go. But some of these, I think there are some things in here that I agree with. Like Fiend Felrose, long comment. One thing I want to pull out of here says, now I'd argue Hank has parts of not being the best dad, besides smoking and getting creeped out by Bobby's hobbies, or saying how he values his guitar over his family. But at the same time, he's a pretty good dad overall, all things considered. It's kind of weird seeing Bobby at probably his dumbest this season. I agree with those things. I do want to get into it more deeply as we talk about it, but like I do think that I made that video a long time ago about Hank being a great dad, how that's the heart of King of the Hill, Hank being a good dad to Bobby. And whenever I see like kind of detractors of the idea that Hank is a good dad, people who say he's definitely a bad dad, the one big example is a season 1 example. And we'll talk about it as we get there. But
But that's not. But that again, that's not him.
That's
That is a
exactly
different character.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and then we'll get into that as we go, because there's like a lot going to be so much of that as we talk over the season of being like, this is funny, but this is not something we'd ever see this character do again.
Mm-hmm.
And when like the other 12 years of the show sort of paint a completely different characterization, even though this thing happened, like especially in an episodic show, do you hold that thing against him when it was clearly the writers like figuring things out, you know?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I think it's especially important when it's an episodic show. If this were serialized, that would be a different story. But like, this is episodic. They're figuring it's, you know, like time, it's got no timeline, you know, like all the characters stay the same age over the 13 years. Like it's hard to hold every single thing as gospel, especially in the first season where they're like working out the kinks.
Yeah, like I don't think you would use a season 1 Simpsons example if you were trying to prove or disprove something. You know what I mean? Like if you want to talk about like, I don't know, just like anything about like the relationship between Homer and Marge, like I would probably talk about something like The Last Temptation of Homer, not Life in the Fast Lane. You know what I mean?
Not Life on the Fast Lane, right? Or Homer's Night Out or whatever.
Right.
I agree. I also Homer is so interesting because he has been so many different versions of himself over the 33 seasons. Like there's a video to be done there. All the different, because like you've got he slowly becomes dumber. Like at first he's dumb but not a huge idiot, and he cares about and is like kind of a stern father, and he cares about his family, but he still messes up. And then he becomes dumber and dumber and dumber, and then he kind of becomes a jerk, and then like now he's dumb now, but he's really sweet now.
Yeah.
He's really sweet. Yeah. And he's always had sweet aspects to him, but like right now when I think of like season 33 Homer, I'm like, what a sweet man. Like he's just a big dumb sweet dad.
Yeah.
All right, one more. We got one more. I think we got them all. Sorry if we didn't get to yours, but I think we got them all. But I think this one is the perfect one to lead into the pilot. And they said, my friend and I recently watched the pilot of like every major Fox cartoon. And something I noticed about King of the Hill is they have so much of it figured out from the pilot. So much of the running jokes and themes with these characters that are built upon through the whole show are in the very first episode. Even Cotton gets an appearance. Also, Hank looks 15 years older than he does for the rest of the show.
It's because he's mad.
Yes. It's because he's mad.
It's because he's mad. The whole
and they do kind of like weirdly, even though they make him so angry in season 1, which feels like a mischaracterization later, there is an episode in I think season 2 that like is a definitive end of his mad arc.
That's when he has to go to the anger issues thing, right? The guy has a heart attack. Yeah.
And like it is interesting that they just were like, all right, end of angry Hank, and they made an episode about it.
I like that though.
Yeah,
I like that though, because again, that's them treating him like a real person,
right?
You know what I mean? Like instead of just kind of going like there isn't a Simpsons episode about Homer just randomly becoming stupid. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like they just kind of go like, we don't want to write him like this anymore. So how do we figure out to like get this out of him in like a realistic way that would like get it out of an actual person? And I really appreciate
that. He's right though. So like, even though like we said, there are a lot of things that they didn't quite have locked in season 1 of King of the Hill, there are also so many things that were established firmly in this one. You've got the Dale, John Redcore, Nancy, Joseph thing. You've got that is locked in. The first thing Hank says to Bobby is, that boy ain't right. It's like, I think that first opening scene, well, the cold open is them just going, yep.
Yeah, looking at the car.
Yes, exactly. I did laugh though that they're like, "Do you watch the Seinfeld show last night?" As I find it funny that they watch Seinfeld. Hank doesn't like New York. I'm surprised you watch Seinfeld.
Yeah, man. Hank does some like, I think it's like in the middle of the season. Hank does some shit that I like. That it broke my brain. Like I was like,
right,
this is not the same character like whatsoever.
I wrote down a few things of those. Yeah. Yes, we'll definitely get there. This is also like. The opening scene of him and Bobby, I think, is so even though the characterizations of both of them needed a little fine tuning after this season, their conflict and relationship that's kind of at the core of the show is very representative in the first scene of Hank and Bobby, where he's listening to a CD and Hank's like, "What you listening to?" And "Mother of God, it's all toilet sounds." And that's like very much their thing, is like Bobby's a weird young kid into new stuff that like Hank doesn't understand, and Hank is just like, no. No.
Yeah.
My favorite line is he says, "What that person on your tape has is a medical disorder." It's pretty great. But yeah, so like the whole plot of the pilot is that a rumor starts going around Arlen that that Hank hits Bobby because Bobby gets a black eye from a baseball game, and some women see him at the Megalomart. They introduced the Megalomart. That's pretty crazy. Pilot episode, Megalomart.
Right.
Buckley's working there and everything.
Man, Chuck is. They talk about Chuck like in like a couple episodes from
Chuck
here.
Chuck is in it already, man. They already were like Chuck Mangione.
Show.
That was like that. What a weird thing for them to have early on. Is yes, we have the Megalomart, and Chuck Mangione is the celebrity sponsor of the Megalomart.
That's nuts.
So funny though. I like the gossip angle though. Like that is very small town. They're trying to get the small town in Texas vibe, in the show, which maybe the show loses a bit of that. Like there's a lot of it in this season actually. In this and Hank's Unmentionable problem, where like there's the gossip going around the neighborhood and everything. But like the whole town is suspecting Hank because they see Bobby with the black eye. And you got this character who I believe is played by David Herman, this great like little dweeb from LA who's a social worker. Also weird for a social worker from LA to move to Texas. That's just weird, right?
Yeah, right. It's pretty random.
But the whole core conflict here is that Hank does have an anger problem. He never takes it out on Bobby in any way, but because he has this anger problem and because of the black eye, they suspect him. So the social workers are like interviewing everyone, which, let's talk about smart idea for a pilot to have a character who's going around interviewing every other new character about the main character. It's pretty genius.
That's how we get the Joseph reveal.
Yes, which is like fully a reveal. Reveal, like, because like first there's the joke where it's very clear that he doesn't realize what's going on with his wife and John Redcorn as she runs out the door. And he's like, says something like you've been getting headaches for years. You've been having those healing sessions for years, and you still get those headaches. and then later in that same scene, he calls Joseph into the room, and it's like the joke is, yeah, he looks just like John Redcorn. We get it. But that was so early that they established that. Also, the other is this one they talk about midway through this episode. Luanne, it's like Luanne needing to move in, right? Or is that come later? Is that come in a later episode? She's just staying with them for sure, and that's a new.
Yeah, I think she's just staying. I don't think she moves. She moves in, and when her and Hank bond, and he like makes the bed up for her and all that shit. Sure. That's a couple episodes down. I think that's right. I think that's Luanne Saga.
Luanne Saga. Yeah, that's a good episode. Yeah, this is, all things considered though, even though like this one focuses so greatly on the angry characterization of Hank, which like does not follow him through the show. He has angry moments, but he's not an angry character.
Right. Yeah.
And I think they were smart to move away from that. But
absolutely.
Even despite that, I think they do a really nice job in this pilot establishing the world, the neighborhood, every character, and a lot of these ongoing ideas and dynamics in the show. It's a very good pilot. It's a very good pilot, I would say.
Yeah, like I think this one's all right. I'm not a big fan of of Bobby in this one.
He's an
I
idiot.
feel like he's a completely different kid.
Yeah.
Like he respects Hank way too much to like play with the door, like when he's playing with
Yes.
the garage door, like all that kind of shit. I'm like nah. But that Bobby's like that for the rest. There's one in I'm kind of skipping around, but in Shins of the Father, like he's like oh Dad, I don't want to fucking talk to my grandfather. He loves cotton. You
I
know what
know.
I mean?
I
Like
wrote that down a lot. That is a big deal. That's my first note
yeah,
about that episode.
yeah.
And you could like argue that the relationship is forged in part because of that episode, but it is true. Like that is so different than what we get later. Um,
Right.
I do though, even though he feels a little off. I guess that's like just going to be the caveat with so many of the things I say about this season. I do feel like the way they wrapped up that whole thing, because like the way the story goes is that uh, eventually the guy who the social worker works for is like, well, did you go talk to the baseball coach to figure out if he got hit by a baseball? And so then it becomes very clear that Hank does not hit Bobby, and they call to tell them that, and Bobby's the one who answers the phone, but he
Mm-hmm.
is having so much fun, like messing with Hank, that he's like, well, I don't want this to end. It feels a little different than how they wrap it up, but I like how they wrap it up because he basically says, I, I, if he, if he thinks that, if he thinks that he's still under investigation, then he'll even love me even when I mess up. Um, which like, I feel like the core of that is an important thing in their relationship, especially even though it's like weird how they get to it in this one. I feel like that's so important, such an important through line in the show is that like even though they're so different, I don't think Bobby ever thinks genuinely like that his dad doesn't like him. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
they have conflicts in other episodes, but he he knows his dad loves him, and that's like I feel like that's such an important part of their dynamic. He respects, like they have a mutual
Right.
respect even though they have very conflicting ideas and worldviews.
Well, I feel like the way this episode is structured, I think what happens at the end with Hank trying to talk to Bobby, I think that's supposed to be, I guess, the first time Hank ever like vocalized to him that he like actually like loves him and like lets that be known. And like when you we kind of I think we talked about this before, just kind of like when you do a first episode of a show, you gotta why are we starting here? Like what
Right.
changes here that sets the tone for the rest of the show with the Simpsons, even though like it wasn't supposed to be the first one we saw, but the first time we see it is when the family becomes whole when they get the dog. Like that's where we
Right.
start. We start when the family becomes whole. Like and with here, um you're starting with the first time, like the first time Hank uh shares his feelings like about his son to his son. The first time Hank like really tells Bobby like how he feels
For
or
sure.
whatever. Which is like a pivotal moment, I guess, in all their lives. And I think that's a great place to start this show, especially since like the first episode of the show is about them and the last episode of the show is about them. And like it proves that that's what the narrative of the show is. It's a guy using all of his like past trauma to try to be the best dad that he possibly can and understand his son in ways that his dad never tried to understand him. Uh and yeah, I think even just it's in the text of this one. Is even like the flashbacks to Cotton and shit like that. Like it's in the text for it to be like, no,
Yes.
this is what this show is going to be about from now on.
Right. I mean that is like there's that line, I didn't write this one down, but I think it's when when Peggy's asking Hank to talk to Bobby, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you know what my father's like, how I was raised. It's like that whole generational trauma aspect is like baked in right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Actually, that's the thing I want to talk about though, is one of the things they use so much in this first season and never again is every time they do like a flashback to a memory, they do this they do this pan up into a thought bubble, and then the thought
Yeah.
bubble has the scene. They do it so often in this
Mhm.
season. It's crazy. It's almost like it was meant to be a continued aspect of the show, like it was a feature of the show. And
Yeah,
then
there's
they
a
kind
lot
of
of
moved away from
that.
it.
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of dream sequences, a lot of nightmares and
Yeah,
shit like
true.
that. And I think that's the show trying to justify it being animated.
Right.
It's trying to be like, well, we can't do this in live action, so this is the reason why this has to be a cartoon. And then sooner or later, the show kind of just goes like, we don't have to do that. We just animated because we want to be animated, and then they just kind of, go as they do and do whatever they want. But it is interesting, especially like you could see like, even just like Mike Judge coming from like MTV and doing shit like that. That kind of looks like that, experimenting with different styles and backgrounds and stuff like that.
For sure.
There's still a little bit of that DNA in these, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Um okay, should we
That's all I got on the pilot.
that's all I got on the pilot. Let's move on to 102, Square Peg. This is a fun one. This is a funny episode.
Yeah, it's really funny. I got
The
most of my notes are quotes.
the whole yeah, I have a good quote that I just read that I forgot about. I I love that the crux of this like conflict initially is them being outraged that the school would teach sex ed. They're like, how could the school do that? That's the parents' job. And then the moment that they're tasked with having to do it, they're like, how do we do this? How do we do this? And then on top of that, for the person they pegged to do it, to be Peggy, for them to be like,
Right.
you have to be the substitute sex ed teacher and come in and do it. It's really funny. Yes, there are some very funny quotes here, but I think like my favorite sequence in this episode, I think the funniest stuff is Peggy like her training montage on how to teach sex ed. Happiness.
Penis,
yeah.
Penis. It's so funny.
Penis. and then when she just the way that she's just screaming it and the neighborhood can hear, it's like vagina. It's so funny. Oh man.
I think my favorite
so
scene in this is Peggy and Bobby. Peggy's
yeah.
like, so what do you you know anything? Like, you know anything about these Bobby's like, I don't know. I'm a little worried about being a slut.
That's my first quote that I wrote down. It's so funny. It's so good. And then you've got like Hank trying to, because like, and then you got Hank trying to teach Bobby how his dad taught him. So that's like the flashback in this episode, is they think about how Cotton taught Hank, and it's like he brings him to a ranch to just watch bulls, like bulls boning cows, basically. And then when he teaches, and then he takes Bobby to like the ranch, and it's like all artificial insemination, and they're like, this does not help at all.
Shit. Yeah, no.
Yeah. Oh, it's so funny.
Hank calls Peggy Peg Leg in this.
Oh yeah.
He just kind of says, "Hey, Peg Leg." I wrote that down because I just thought that was weird.
That is weird. That is a weird one. I think is this the first like Dooley? Is the first introduction of Dooley at the baseball game when
or maybe gotta be.
Yeah, and he goes, your mom's gonna teach sex ed. We're gonna get to see her boobs. And then Bobby just goes, so just so funny. One of my notes is just Dooley is so fucking funny. He's such a funny character.
Yeah, he's hilarious.
Yeah, this one, like, though, I really like especially the ending, just like the way that the way the resolution happens, that Peggy figures out how to do this, figures out how to teach sex ed. She goes she goes ready, gets to class, and then she's like, all right, everyone who has permission slips, pass them up, everyone else leave, and everyone leaves except for Bobby. And then she just has to teach Bobby sex ed. So it's like, it's kind of sweet how like it starts with them being like, I don't know how to teach my kid about sex ed. Then to, I have to teach all the kids about sex ed, to, oh, I get to teach my kid about sex ed. I learned how to do it, and we get to do this. Yeah, I get to parent. I get to be a good parent.
Right.
It's nice and also very
Yeah.
funny. Like the repressed, the fact that Hank and Peggy are so repressed makes this plot really funny.
I don't know if they did this a couple years later. I don't know if Peggy would have cared as much. I know Hank still would have probably felt really
right.
weird.
Is this part of that development? Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're probably right.
Yeah.
She would have been eager to share the knowledge that she has such expertise on, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Good one. I don't have like a whole lot else to analyze about it, but it's a funny,
it's
great
just a really
episode.
funny episode. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. All right, let's move on to 103, Order of the Straight Arrow. The cold open of this one is interesting with all the with the young gang. You got Boomhauer, you got Bill, you got Hank, you got Dale, all in Order of the Straight Arrow's kids, and they're all very similar. They all have very similar characterizations, which is funny. But the even weirder is their parents, who all look just so much like them.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we ever see Bill's parents outside of this scene in the show, right? I don't think we ever do. We see his distant relatives. I think we see the Boomhauers a couple of times.
The
wedding, and we see Mrs. Boomhauer in another episode. I can't remember which one.
I know we see Boomhauer's grandma.
Right.
When he what's the name of that? Dango Love.
Right. Yes, yeah, that's right. When he goes to get the ring for his for the girl he's into. And then I don't think we ever see Dale's parents. Definitely never see Dale's parents.
You see his dad, because his dad.
Oh, we do see his dad. Oh my god, I didn't even go back and look. I want to pull this up now if I have it downloaded to see how did they change the design. They did do this a few times.
I didn't even think to think. I didn't even think to think if they changed.
I'm going to look it up right now because they did do that in this show. They showed a few flashbacks early on with Peggy's mother, where she looks a lot like Peggy, and then in like season, it's like 9 or something later in the show, they go to Montana where her parents live, and they did a completely different design, which I think is fine. It tracks. Like, if you're going to do something real with the character and not just like allude to her, then make it fit the story. Okay, I do have this one downloaded. Let's look. Let's see. Where the parents? Oh yeah, this is not Dale's dad. No, they look and also that's probably not Boomhauer's dad either. Like, he looks so different. And also I think later they established that Boomhauer's dad is a doctor. Dr. Boomhauer. And so that's interesting. But these are just like the kinks. These are the kinks that get worked out. Although interestingly, I would say that like the Simpsons were pretty consistent with like this kind of stuff. I don't think they changed all that many things. Yeah.
I mean, no. Well, besides Marge's dad,
right?
In the way we was, he's like fat with brown hair.
That's right.
And then like Fear of Flying, he's like really skinny with blue hair.
That's right. Yeah. Fair. But it is funny to see these. Basically, they just look like slightly off model Dale, Boomhauer, Bill, with cotton, and they definitely changed these. Well, who knows? Maybe Bill's dad looks like that still. We never met him. But that is funny. That's pretty funny. So I get a lot of shit in one of my videos. So in my Hank and Bobby video, granted, it's just a transition to my sponsorship in the video, but I say Hank didn't discover propane till he was in his 20s, which I believe that's because I was armed with the knowledge that he didn't get his job in propane till he was in his 20s. He wasn't given that job by Buck Strickland until then, And
But go ahead. I know. Go ahead. I'll let you go ahead.
and then in this cold open, he says he wants to work in propane and propane accessories. And so um, I used that as a transition to my Skillshare ad, and I get comments to this day being like, actually,
Bro, I don't. These don't count to me. Like, because I vividly, I don't know what episode it is. I just vividly remember Hank saying that, like, there's a story. Hank tells a story about how he was introduced to propane, and he wasn't a fucking
Yeah.
child, right? Like, doesn't he tell a story or something like that about, like,
I'd have to. It's hard. This is a
I
show
think
that
he
I watch.
does.
I watch this show so often, but I watch it in such random orders for my videos. I've watched through it front to back a couple times in my life, but I haven't watched it as many times as Futurama or The Simpsons, so I'm not as like intimately familiar with the like ongoing developments. But that's actually one of the things I love about King of the Hill is like, even though I've watched through it multiple times and I've watched a ton of episodes over and over, it always feels like there's an episode where I'm like, oh yeah, I don't remember much of this one. Let's watch it, which is great feeling when you love the show so much.
Mm-hmm.
This is okay. So it feels like I understand why they did an episode like this. This is such a like small town type of thing, is like the Scouts, the Scouts type of storyline.
Right.
And there are, I will say, there's some dumb. Hank is one of my notes is about Hank. So like they have the whole what's it called, the silent sticks or whatever with the beef jerky and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And Hank's testing them, and he pretends he falls asleep at the wheel, and then Joseph tells him to stop, and he's like, "Huh, you failed." I'm like, imagine how bad that is. Such a bad lesson as a father to be like, if I fall asleep at the wheel, stay silent.
If I tell you to be quiet no matter what.
So bad. There's one line in here that it's when I think it's when one of the other kids who's with them says something about their dad, like the dad says something about like, well, no matter what, I love you or whatever, and Hank says, can you imagine how it would have turned out if my daddy loved me no matter what? and I hear him say that, and I'm like, Hank, you're so close to getting it. Hank, you're so close. Yeah. You're right there, man.
Poor dude.
you're so close. Oh man, you're so close to figuring out the root of all of your trauma.
Yeah, bro.
It's pretty funny. Do you ever hear about a snipe hunt before this episode? You know anything about snipe hunt?
You ever heard of Camp Laszlo?
Yeah, they do that in
that. Yeah,
it's because it's like a real old like camp game that I remember. I went to summer camp maybe once or twice in my life, and when you go, like, that's one, like, there's like, you gotta, well, we're gonna go hunt for snipes on this day.
Oh, they do it in Up too.
Do they do it in Up too?
Yeah, because that's the bird,
right?
He's right. Yeah, he tells him to go look for a snipe. Right. Yeah,
that's
bird.
So funny, Kevin. I gotta rewatch Up. Gotta rewatch Up. Maybe a good one for the Patreon.
I love it.
Wow, actually parallel to this one, because then Bobby kills the bird thinking it's a snipe.
Bobby does kill the bird.
Oh my god. There's also the other thing, the thing that you notice about this one too, is that like so many of the problems that happen stem from Hank like appropriating the brief amount of Native American culture he learned from John Redcorn.
Yeah. So look, he so very early in episodes, there's a quote that I have written down where he says, "Oh, there's John Redcorn. Let's go get some funny Indian stuff to do."
Yeah.
And then he goes over there and John Redcorn is just kind of like, I mean, our shit is sacred. Like, I don't know what to tell you. He's like,
Yeah.
well, we'll take some sacred traditions.
Yeah, we'll
like,
take some sacred stuff. That sounds fine.
What the fuck?
He's just got no self-awareness.
A lot of this season is which is an angle that they actually end up dropping like kind of quick. Is that like a big thing in the show is like kind of making fun of like how ignorant the characters are to certain things or whatever.
Yeah,
but
especially
like
the one where the super nuisance phones move in. That does.
yeah, this year in particular, because the show is like that in general, but this year in particular is like they're like borderline racist because they kind of they just don't understand. Like they just like there's a lot of shit that they just really don't understand.
We'll get into that when we get to West East Side Story, which is the one where the super nuisance phones move in. But that one is like I was actually kind of impressed though that it like walked this line of like we'll talk about when we get there. It's interesting. They tackled it in an interesting way, even though they're like showcasing all of these problematic things. They're not showcasing them in a way that's like advocating for them, and it's like
I don't think the show never does that. The show never does that. It's just interesting that they like made the characters like this and like kind of
and it's always born of ignorance and never of like hate or anything. But it is like
right,
it's
absolutely,
it's interesting,
absolutely.
And the same in this one where they go and ask John Redcorn for this stuff. Like it's just full ignorance of them being like, well, these are sacred to us. And them being like, sounds great. Let us know. What is it?
Let me know. What is it? Yeah. What's the vibes? Yeah. Also, I never realized that John Redcorn had a different voice this year.
Yes, he does. I remember learning that. I might have learned that on the Ho Yeah podcast, actually. I didn't know that at first, but I think the guy they had him, the guy who was playing him passed away after the first season. And then they is this guy?
Isn't one of these episodes dedicated to him, I think.
One. Yeah, I think you're right.
One of these episodes.
He looks familiar, actually. Was he in? What was he in? Was he in other stuff? No, he wasn't in anything else that I've seen. And then so it was a guy named Victor Aaron, and then to replace him after he passed was a guy named Jonathan Joss, who I also think has been. I think he loves the show and is always down to talk to fans about it. I bet we could convince him to do an interview if we wanted,
nice.
Which would be pretty cool. And he's working a lot too. Walking Dead. He was in Cyberpunk. He's in let's see. There's something big I just saw here. Ray Donovan. That's a big show. He was in Parks and Rec. Bunch of episodes of Parks and Rec. Love to see it. And many, many, many episodes of King of the Hill. The other big laugh I got in this episode is when all the hippies start chasing after him and start kicking their hacky sacks at them. That's an aspect. That is one example of something that I think this season does that a lot that the other seasons don't. This season has like a little bit of a less realistic, more cartoony vibe to certain aspects. Like there are solutions and or moments where just feel so removed from reality. You know what I mean? Like they would like these people don't expect kicking hacky sacks at someone to help to stop them. And there are a few other examples over the season that I'll bring up later, but there was like where I was just like, this plot is very cartoony, like more cartoony than I would expect out of this show. The end of this episode is I like though, where like Bobby like prays to Imatanye and the whooping crane just comes back to life. It's crazy that they let him off the hook though. They still like moved the whooping crane to a sewer and off the side of the highway, like, and then they never would have let him off. But this is it's an interesting one, and it's like, and it all stems from like Bobby believing in everything his dad tells him. His dad tells him all this shit, and Bobby is like, my dad wouldn't lie to me about this stuff. I trust in and believe in my dad. And Hank is like speaking out of his ass about Native American shit and just making stuff up.
Right.
To the point where then Bobby believes it so thoroughly that he makes a stupid mistake and almost kills this whooping crane.
Exactly. I wrote down this. I wrote down a line that Bobby says after, because he's like, why would you like lie to me? Like I don't get that. And he's like, well, like my dad did it, and you know, like it's just like a joke. He's like, and then Bobby says, I don't want to be against you. You're my dad. We're supposed to be on the same team. And I thought that was really nice. I thought that was
nice.
A really nice moment.
That is a good Bobby Hank moment. There are a lot of good Bobby Hank moments in the season, despite the like off characterization. Actually, that's a good lead into the next one. Should we move on? You good with Order of the Straight Arrow?
Yeah, there's one line that I didn't talk about. It's right after the original. It's after the original flashback. Bill says, I'm so depressed I can't even blink. That's my first note.
So they got Bill's characterization down pretty early.
They do. Well, he is very pathetic, and they do kind of punch and bag him, but he's not as pathetic, and I don't think he wants to fuck Peggy yet. Right. I don't think those things are there.
Yeah, that's a funny classic feeling Bill line though. I'm so depressed I can't even blink. Okay, let's talk about Hank's Got the Willys. This is kind of a weird episode. This starts off Hank dreaming of golfing with Willie Nelson, which I think is a very funny sequence. Just like his hero, he's dreaming of playing golf with his hero. They sit down, they both get a hole in one. They sit down, and my favorite is Willie goes, you know, I've always wanted to sell propane and propane accessories like you do. He just like implies that his music career took off, and he's like, now I can't do what I want to do, which is sell propane.
Damn.
It's so funny. Oh wait, okay. I have this note, but I'm trying to remember. Oh, okay, now I remember how it works. So after the dream, he wakes up because Bobby's fucking with the guitar. Bobby is fucking with his guitar, playing it poorly. I said it's interesting how, I think this is the only episode this happens. The theme song interrupts the scene. Like, it's rare that they, in the middle of a scene, Hank will be like, say something, then they'll cut to the theme song, and they'll cut back to the same scene. Do you think of other times where they do that in King of the Hill?
Does that happen in this one? I didn't even realize that happens here.
So he goes in and he yells at Bobby for playing the guitar. They cut to the theme song, and then they cut back, and they're still sitting there yelling at him about the guitar. They finish that whole sequence about the guitar. It's weird, right? Yeah, it's not. I think it's pretty unusual for this show.
You know what that reminds me of? I could be fucking fabricating this for all I know, but when I was a kid, I think I saw like an original draft of one of the first like pilot scripts for Futurama. And
I know we've talked about this line on the pod before. Yes, yeah.
Okay,
no, tell it.
Let's
do it. Let's do it.
We've done so much of this. I don't remember what the fuck we talked about.
I think what it is it's I think in that script, I think where you probably read it was, did you have the DVD?
Oh, it might have been
it's on the DVD.
Okay.
It's where it takes place is when he gets to the future. The moment he gets to the future, and he looks out at the world and how it is now in the pilot, he says, my family, my girlfriend, my job, it's like it's all gone. Woohoo! And then he cheers, and that's the cold open joke. But what do they do in this one? He looks out and he says,
he says, "Oh shit!" But it's like, "Oh shh." And then the theme song's supposed to cut it off. And then he says it like after the theme song. And that is such I'm pretty sure I've done that in a video before. Where I bet because I think that's so funny.
I bet the Fox censors nixed that one. I bet that was it. It's like that's quite an introduction to your show.
I think what the gag was that like I think it took place even further after. Like, I think he like went downstairs and was trying to walk down the street, and I think like he almost got hit by
Was
like a
it?
flying car or something.
We
I
should
think it
go
was
through and
something
read
like
that.
that.
We should definitely go through and read that again. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Actually,
Just something like that to that effect.
That might be a fun Patreon episode idea if we don't want to do a movie, is like to go read that script and then watch the pilot of Futurama and
See what's different.
and talk about the differences. That might be a good video idea, Tariq. Maybe we should make a video about that.
Remember when the Simpsons DVDs used to come with the scripts, like in the special features?
Yeah, I love those fucking DVDs, man.
Yeah.
I'm sad that they don't make them anymore.
They don't they?
No, I think they stopped at season 20. I don't think they kept going.
Well,
Did they start again?
Yeah, because I remember they did 19 to kind of bridge the gap because everybody had
Right.
disgusting sets that went from 1 to 18 and then went to 20.
Yeah, because
So I
they
know
came
they
out with
did
the 20.
19.
They came out with the 20th at this DVD at like the anniversary, and
Right.
then they, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was it. And so,
Yeah. Which like,
oh, that's so weird. They literally like 20. So they like stopped making the DVDs in 2017. Season 18 was the last one they made, and then 2010. Oh wait. Oh, weird. Oh, no. Weird. Came out with 20. They came out with season 20 right after it aired, and
right.
then slowly released everything from 2011 to 2019. They released seasons 14 through 19, which were all the missing pieces.
Yeah, I think what they really wanted to do was fill that gap. I don't know if they'll keep going though, but I think they wanted to fill that gap.
I want the commentaries, man. Like there's so
that was kid me. At the height of my, well, not the very height, but like at the height of my youth Simpsons phase, I brought the DVD, the season 20 DVD, thinking it was going to have damn commentaries on it for new episodes, and I was like, shit, I get to hear them talk about new ones, and it's just the episodes, bro. Like that's just what the disc is.
I hate
It's just
that
the
shit,
episodes.
man. I wish they would invest the time into these things. Even honestly, there is for sure a market, and it's an appeal to somebody out there, to lots of people out there. If you did audio commentaries and put them on Disney Plus, do new audio commentaries for Simpsons episodes and put them on Disney Plus as an option. You will get diehards. I mean, you will for sure get people to invest. It's just a lost thing for shows that were such a huge part of in creating my interest in these so thoroughly.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know if you know, but well, obviously you know that like before The Simpsons was on Disney Plus, it was on the FX app.
FX,
the
yeah,
Simpsons
they had
World
them on
thing.
there, didn't they?
They had them on there, and they had like 18 and 19 before those DVDs came out. Like they had those with commentary on it.
Man.
Like I heard season like 18, 19 commentaries before the DVDs came out.
Bums me out.
Yeah, so they were in the process of doing that and like just putting it on that app, but then like all this streaming shit happened, and like there is definitely a market for them to put that up there. If you don't want to sell the DVDs no more, you don't gotta sell the DVDs no more, I guess. But like, yeah, let them keep talking about it. But at the same time, though, right? Like when I listen to those later Simpson commentaries, like I didn't recognize any voices except Al Jean,
right?
And a lot of it was spent like, I ain't gonna lie, man, it was kind of weird to hear. A lot of it was spent with like the crew just talking about other cartoons that they liked.
Right.
Like they were just like, Gravity Falls is pretty cool, BoJack, and I was like, what the fuck is going on?
There's a weird commentary track on, I can't remember what season. I think it might be season 1 of Rick and Morty that Al Jean is on.
What?
For some reason. He's just a fan. They have him on, and on that commentary,
I need that one.
On that commentary is where he like kind of extends the offer. He's just being like, well, if you guys want to do a couch gag to the Rick and Morty people, and like afterwards they were like, was that a real offer? Do you guys really want us to do it? And that's where the Rick and Morty couch gag came from.
That's sick.
I know. It's weird though. Like it's interesting to hear, and it's also just cool that like Rick and Morty is the hot new shit. that's more popular than anything is like, well, of course we're reverential to the Simpsons. Of course we're gonna let Al Jean sit here and talk about our fucking show with us. Like it's
good
cool.
vibes. Yeah.
You know, it might also have been. Wait, was it? Wait, maybe it was. Hold on. I'm looking this up real quick. Because it might. It might be. It might have also been Matt Groening.
Was it Matt Groening or LG? Either one is kind of funny.
It might be
But
both.
Matt Groening offering them a spot to do a couch gag is really. It sounds like an Al Jean thing to do. So it being Matt.
Yeah, I know. Funny. That's my gut. Rick and Morty,
Mm-hmm.
Blu-ray, commentary, Simpsons.
Hold
Definitely.
your comments until Johnny finds the answer, guys. Don't tell us how wrong we are just yet.
Tariq, tell me something else you like about this episode while I figure
Something
this out.
I like about this episode? My note says Bobby would knock out Hank's hero, huh? He would do that, huh? he knocks Buddy out with the
with the club. He
right.
gets the whole full club.
Poor guy.
Man, I can't find this online anywhere. I should just go get my Blu-ray that's back there and look at the special features on the back. But I know that there is a Simpsons people on a commentary on Rick and Morty for some reason. Pretty funny, interesting stuff.
It's pretty funny.
King of the Hill is one that I think there was only 2 or 3 like releases that they put any real money into. So I think there's commentaries for seasons 1 and 2. I have the DVDs for every King of the Hill season, but once they hit season 3, it's like bare bones.
Yeah, they don't go that hard.
The later seasons are a mess because they're mixed aspect ratios. And so like it's weird. Some of them are just like, some of them are like framed like they're supposed to be full screen, but they're widescreen within the full screen. So like it's because it's weird. It's bizarre.
Oh, so it's just like a fucking rectangle,
a little square. It's like a little square with a little rectangle in the middle. If I watched it on this TV back here, it would be like just in the middle. The widescreen would be just in the middle of the thing. Yeah. They were lazily made DVDs. It could be worse. My Hey Arnold DVDs have shit quality for a bunch of the episodes. Actually, my first set. I have 2 sets of Hey Arnold DVDs. I haven't looked at the second one.
So your first set is the one with like the brick wall behind Arnold. Yes. That's the one I have. Okay, that's the one.
Have you watched through it? There's so many bad quality rips on there.
Yeah, it's all like sharpened and shit like that. And but like that, you notice that DVD has like the logo in the corners has like, it says like DVD ROM. Like these are like the cheapest made DVDs possible.
I'm curious because I bought the new set that has the movies in it and everything.
Right.
And I haven't opened it, but I'm curious. I kind of bought it with the hope and expectation that they fixed it for that one. So I don't know. I'm gonna watch it and see what happens. Maybe it's just the same shit.
I don't know. Yeah, definitely.
It felt more legit. It felt like a more legit set.
Yeah, I mean they got Craig Bartlett to do a new design for the cover and shit like that. That's what they did for the Rocco. I have the Rocco DVD too. In the Rocco DVD, they had Joe Murray do a nice little cover for it or whatever. Which kind of, when they do stuff like that, that leads me to believe that they cared a little more for this release of it, than previous. But like, man, that's what kind of makes my feelings complicated about like Nickelodeon, right? Because like, whereas you could say like Cartoon Network, it's like they do shit like what they released the first 2 seasons of Ed, Edd n Eddy on DVD, and then the other ones just like you couldn't find anywhere for years, maybe iTunes, until they decided to put them on HBO Max. Foster's Home, I think, is another show that they did the first 2 seasons on DVD, and then the rest, again, nothing. Powerpuff got a full series DVD. Adventure Time, Steven Universe, and like regular show
Adventure Time,
DVDs.
I think they stopped. I think they stopped doing.
No, I think there's a full set, right?
Maybe. Is there? It's DVD, but not Blu-ray, right? Let's see. Oh wait. No, maybe I'm wrong. Oh, there is a. Oh, that's not American.
Oh.
There better be one in the US if there's one somewhere else. That's like a slight against my existence. If they put out a Blu-ray set in some other country and won't bring it, like fucking Steven Universe, they've only put out the complete series DVD, not Blu-ray, but you can get every season on Blu-ray in Australia. So annoying. It makes me so mad. These look like different regions. This is interesting and annoying. I hate that. Very beautiful box art, though.
Saying that to say though is like, in comparison to Nickelodeon, right? Nickelodeon, almost every Nickelodeon show has a DVD release. They're just shitty DVD
They're
releases.
just shitty DVDs.
Like, you can find a fucking DVD for My Brother and Me. Like, it's like nuts. The type of shit that they have.
My Brother and Me, man. Do you remember the one
Yeah.
where do you remember the one where he shaved all that shit into his hair?
You don't know how happy I am to finally. I'll bring up My Brother and Me in conversation at least 3 times a month, and nobody knows what I'm talking about. This is the first time somebody has actually repeated back an episode to me. I'm so happy.
I remember. It's so weird. I think we talked about it at some point, but what it was weird to realize that there's only like 12 episodes or something.
Yeah,
like,
there's like 12
barely
13
any.
or some shit like that. Yeah.
And because like I remember as a kid being like, this is one of the Nickelodeon shows. Like, this is just one of the shows. And like, it's like, there's got to be a bunch of these. And nope, I probably saw them all. I probably saw everyone.
Man. Yeah, man. They did it, My
crazy.
Brother and Me, quick.
Well, it's weird when there's so few episodes, but they replay it all the time, where it's just like, where it's part of the ongoing lineup. And you're like, wow, they really syndicate this with just 13 of them. That's wild.
Right. Yeah. I think I read something about some kind of differences or something like that, and that's why the show didn't go. I don't think it was because of popularity, as far as I remember. But
it was. I remember liking it. I remember liking that show.
I like My Brother and Me.
Yeah. All right.
But they do have that DVD. That DVD is on Amazon.
Do you have it?
I don't. I thought about it though. The cover is shit. It's just like it's just the logo. The cover of it is just the My Brother and Me logo.
All right, let's keep talking about Hank's Got the Willys. That was a good tangent.
Yeah.
That was a good DVD, physical media, commentary tangent.
Right.
So
how long is this episode going to be? Jeez.
It's going to be so long, dude. But this is exactly what we're getting when we talk about these shows, because we both go on tangents and we also have so much to say about these shows. Mm-hmm. This is why our Simpsons episode is 3.5 hours, and doing very well right now. We got so many views on YouTube. Thanks guys.
For watching, guys.
Seriously, especially after we were like gone for so long, and to for that one to be doing so well is very rewarding. It makes it feel like, oh, thank God we're back at it. Like it's all worth it, you know. So very excited. It looks like we got a bunch of new commentaries from one person, or a bunch of new comments from one person.
Nice.
So Hank's Got the Willys. So at the beginning, he's mad at Bobby for playing his guitar with cheese. My favorite is that he says he does it. Bobby says he does it because Celery Head plays guitars with cheese, and who's clearly a Carrot Top parallel.
Yeah.
But it also made me question: does Carrot Top ever play guitars with cheese? Is that like a thing Carrot Top does?
I don't know, man.
I don't know either.
You ever? I'm sorry. This is a little tangential, but there's a Family Guy bit that fucking kills me about Carrot Top. They because it's like a wild episode. Carrot Top steals something from the Griffins, and then they go to get it, and then Peter hands him a saw with glasses on it, and he says, "Oh, I think you dropped this. Is this yours or some shit like that?" And Carrot Top says, "Oh, that's my seesaw because it has glasses and it's a saw." And then Peter cracks the fuck. He said, "You are so fucking funny." Like, it's so funny.
I love that. That's great. That's great. I like that. I like that as a juxtaposition to Hank's reaction here,
right?
In which he is just furious that this man exists. And my favorite moment is when he brings that up to Peggy. And Peggy's just like, oh, like Celery Head. I saw him on Letterman or something. He goes, did you know he makes $3 million a year? and Hank just sighs so heavily. He's just, it's so perfect. Such a perfect Hank moment. There are some like aspects of this episode that are like Hank has a hard time conveying his emotions for sure. That's a through line in this show for sure. Or at least emotions other than anger early on. But the fact that you got that line in here where Peggy is like, well, I love my family. And Hank goes, well, now you get it. That's the kind of love I have for Betsy. Talking about his guitar.
That
is rough.
Yeah,
it's
shit is rough.
Yeah.
But it is weird. It feels like later they swapped the guitar for like his emotions for like Ladybird.
His truck also, but his truck also becomes a it becomes a metaphor for some aspects of his childhood, I think, in that episode, if I'm not mistaken. But back to your point about the first episode, like this is another one where Bobby just like no respect for Hank in this one. He's playing his guitar with cheese. He's running his tractor into his truck. Like he's just like he's a menace. He's just
hard-headed. He's like hard-headed and he does things without thinking. And I can understand the thought process of writing a kid character and thing like, oh, that's just kids, just what kids do or whatever. But like,
for sure,
when you think about like just like how fucking like happy and lovable and respectful like Bobby is like later down the line, and that's the character that we grew to love or whatever. Like this one is just I was like, why is he fucking doing that? Like I'm like, stop.
And at least to their credit in this one, Hank doesn't get like angry in this episode, does he? He gets upset and like annoyed at Bobby.
Yeah. I don't think he like he
doesn't like blow a gasket or anything.
Yeah.
One of my favorite lines, one of my favorite jokes in the whole show is Hank basically is like, hey, Bobby, you need a hero. You need someone to look up to. You need a role model. And then he says that his role model is Willie Nelson. He explains why he loves Willie Nelson so much. And then he's like, who's your role model, Bobby? And Bobby goes, Willie Nelson. and then he goes like, well, now you're just saying that because I do. He's like, no, I like Willie Nelson. He has long hair. He's alternative. And then Hank goes, now you take that back. So funny. He so detests the idea that Willie Nelson's alternative. It's such a good joke. This one's also like, I like seeing how worked up Peggy gets about her, like, right. Well, granted, valid. Hank is treating that guitar with more respect than he treats Peggy in this episode, but like,
it's rough.
But it is like a little bit of a, even though that's more valid here than elsewhere, it's very Peggy to have a rivalry with something random.
Oh, absolutely.
Just being like, yeah.
But I think the joke with Peggy usually is like, you step back and you're kind of laughing at her for how irrational she's being. But here it's like you're laughing at Hank for how irrational he's being.
Yeah.
And Peggy's like, why the fuck am I competing with a guitar? Like, that's kind of what Peggy's thing this time is.
For sure.
Where, like, I feel like later she would just be, like, proud almost to compete with the guitar a little bit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
She would lean into it, and she would lean into the competition, where here she's like, why am I doing this? Yeah, that is true. I really like how this all like pans out. Like, so Hank embarrasses himself in front of Willie Nelson after Bobby knocks him out with the golf club on accident. And then Bobby steals Betsy, the guitar, rides it over to Willie's house and just like convinces Willie to hang out with him and his dad. And it's kind of sweet. He gets the guitar signed. He facilitates Hank being able to come over and hang out with his hero and play music with his hero. And you get that nice little moment where Willie, even though like I don't necessarily agree with Willie, because I think everything that Bobby did in this episode was a sign of disrespect for Hank's things. the idea that he's like, oh, he's playing your guitar and he's riding your mower. I think that kid does have a hero, and his name is Hank Hall. That's the joke. His name is Hank Hall. My other favorite joke in this is Bob Dylan talking to Boomhauer and them just being incomprehensible. Them just like, hey.
In the episode, I think it's the one right before this, where Boomhauer, like, the cops acts like, yo, what's going on here? And Boomhauer tries to snitch. Like, man, they don't kill this bird. Like, you know what I mean? He tries to, like,
says it all. Yeah.
And they just can't understand him.
That's the funny thing is like, I get a lot of comments about this on my Boomhauer video too, because I do stupidly in that video. I made a point to be like his unrealistic accent, even though I didn't realize that it was based on a real accent. I feel very dumb about that one. But also because I make such a point in that video to talk about how like ridiculous and incomprehensible his accent is, people are just like, well, I can understand Boomhauer. And I'm like, well, yeah, I can understand Boomhauer too, because I watch this show so much. Like, I understand Boomhauer. When you watch the show a bunch, you pick out the meaning pretty easily. But that is like the joke so often, especially early on, is that other people don't understand him.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think that joke peaks. I think what I'm about to say is wrong. I think it peaks somewhere else. What I was gonna say was that I think it peaks in the episode where they burn down the fire station. Because when he tells the story, he's the only one talking in like normal English, and he makes everybody else talk like that. But I think it actually peaks in the one where like he like falls asleep in a river, and then
and then he gets sent to a mental asylum,
and nobody understands him, and then there's such a big understanding that he gets into like a asylum.
Yeah, it's like a whole thing, even though like allegedly a bunch of people have that accent, and people they clearly operate in society. And so yeah, it's interesting. I like a lot of those jokes there. There's one where he's like, he's talking to Hank on the phone about legal stuff, and he's just like, I couldn't understand a word he said. Dang legal mumbo jumbo.
I don't remember what the situation was. I just remember there was one point where like Boomhauer briefly tried to explain himself, and Hank said, Boomhauer, you're not going to be able to talk your way out of this one.
Yeah, it's so good. So funny. They always just have the best little bits and jokes about that. It's great. Okay. I like the end too. I like Peggy's about to go like cause a whole stir about the guitar thing, and he picks up the guitar and he sings the song that he wrote about Peggy, and that's nice. That's a nice little ending. You got what else do you think about? Any thoughts about Hank's Got the Willys?
Nah, you pretty much summed it up. We went through all my notes. It was fun to see them play golf.
Through all your notes.
No, it's okay. I think isn't that what we're supposed to do?
Yeah. You're supposed to.
I think it's funny seeing them play golf beforehand, before all of the Willie Nelson stuff happens. Yeah. And then afterwards, I think all that stuff is cool too. This is kind of the first few were like Hank and Bobby, and then like literally from this point onward, the rest of the season is Hank and Peggy. And this is kind of the first step into that.
That's true.
Cause I kind of noticed it around the end. I was like, they are focusing on this way more than they usually would. Like, and that's not to say that like their marriage doesn't get focused, because it 1,000,000% does. But like, it is the focal point for the majority of these episodes.
That's true.
You would almost think that that's what the show is supposed to be about. If you just watch these,
right? Yeah, you're not wrong. Especially, I feel like it ends up becoming so much more Hank and Bobby. Peggy's so important to the show. Obviously, there's plenty of plots that are like very focused on her, but I feel like the core of the show is Hank and Bobby. I've always felt that way. Cool. Well, let's move on to 105, Luanne's Saga. A lot of good Chuck Mangione in this one, right at the beginning, which I love.
Yeah, right. It opens with "Feels So Good" during the workout. Feels so good,
tape. and then it's the commercial, and he says, He goes, "Where shopping feels so good at the Megalomart." he's like, "Where shopping feels so good." One of my first notes is how crazy it is that Buckley picks up Luanne and then rides her down the street and then stops to break
And
up
then,
with her.
oh yeah, he bugged out for that. That shit was
is
crazy.
so fucked, man.
He bugged out for that.
What an asshole. Buckley's, look, as much, even though one of my favorite episodes of all time is the one with Buckley's Angel, Buckley's a big idiot. Luanne deserves better than Buckley. She really does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he bugged out for that.
This is a lot to do, even though this is a Luanne episode, it does have a lot to do with Hank and Peggy having a conflict, because it basically, Peggy's like, she's gone through a breakup, she needs to just process it and take this time. Don't say anything dumb, just tell her she's pretty, and like, it's gonna take her time to process this stuff. And then Hank decides to start talking shit about Buckley and saying he's better off, and like interjecting himself into her love life and all that, and that's where everything goes wrong. There is that funny though, like there's that funny sequence where so Peggy tells him, just tell her she's pretty, and then after he does something different and she's chastising him for it, he just goes, "You look pretty, Peggy."
Yeah, so funny. And then she tries to keep talking.
Yeah,
he says, Peg, you're
pretty, Peg. Yeah. And it works. It's
and
so
she
funny.
just gets so flustered that she he has to do it like 3 times. But by the 3rd time, she gets so flustered that she doesn't remember what the fuck she was talking about.
Oh, man.
Great bit.
I like, one of the lines I wrote down that I think is so funny is when they go to the dancey place, they go to the club or whatever, the bar, and they're looking for a good guy to dance with and hang out with Luanne, and I think it's Dale. He goes, girls like guys with a round muscular butt. I'm going to look for a guy with a round muscular butt. And then there's that moment where they're in the bathroom peeing at the urinal, and he looks over and he like notices that he's got a round muscular butt, and he's like tries to pick him up for Luanne, but obviously it's not going to go well in a bathroom in Texas, I don't expect.
Yeah, bad vibes.
Yeah.
For Hank.
This is another one that has something that Hank does that I think he would never do, ever. Do you know what I'm talking about here?
No, it's been a while since I saw this one.
Such a dickhead to Boomhauer. He calls Boomhauer like a lady chasing, like,
he bugs out.
Hank loves and respects Boomhauer so much over the show, and this is the first time
he would never even suspect that. Right, yeah.
Exactly.
And I didn't like that. I didn't like that.
I like the way they make you, even like, I mean, early on in the show, they even make you be like, oh no, like Boomhauer, like, is Boomhauer really with Luanne here?
Yeah,
but then,
I did kind of go, oh no.
And then when they, but I love when they get back to Boomhauer's house and he just like angrily gives her a pillow and blanket and walks into his room. He's like so pissed. He's so mad.
Because even Luanne, nobody knows Boomhauer's intention. Yeah. Even
Luanne was like, you're moving so fast. Yeah.
He like, yo, shut the fuck up. Go to sleep.
Man, love Boomhauer. There like there's a few things about Boomhauer that may be a little skeezy, like his whole the episode where he tries to teach Bobby to pick up women, and it's just all about hitting on every woman you find. It may be a little skeezy, but like for the most part, Boomhauer is just such a like, he's just such a like kind soul. He just happens to be a ladies' man.
He's a stand-up guy.
Yeah.
I think he's like a he's like a he's like a version of Quagmire that you could be friends with and not be a bad person for being friends with.
He's so much better than Quagmire.
Yeah.
So much better. Yeah. And then there's the end. Do you like the end with the
I love the end.
like,
I love the end.
And Hank? Yeah.
I love Hank and Luanne hanging out together in general in this.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the end is really nice where he like.
Yeah, it is even the other stuff where even though he's doing the wrong thing and he's like messing with the timeline of the healing, it's funny to see them like get along and hang out, and it's the first
Yeah,
time you
like
see it in the
even
show.
you're right, when they come in, like after hanging out and they're just like laughing and shit, and Peggy's
Yeah.
like, "What the fuck have y'all been?" Like it is really nice.
This is a good one. I
Good,
like
good. It's
Luanne Saga.
nice
I
one.
love Luanne though. Luanne is one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
I want my Luanne video to blow up more than it has. It's got good views, but like I wish that one
It's a
was
good
like
video.
way up there. My
It's a
Boomhauer
good
one's got
video.
the most, which is weird. Random, right? Isn't that random?
I don't know, man, because they trying to figure him out.
People love
Everybody's
Boomhauer.
trying to figure him out.
Yeah, it's tough. There's not that many Boomhauer episodes, to be honest.
Yeah.
All right, you want to move on to 106? Any other thoughts on Luann Saga?
That's it for Luanne Saga. We could do 106.
All right, we are on Hank's Unmentionable Problem. This is the episode about Hank being constipated, which I think is like a perfect Hank Hill plot, because it's something, especially the way that it gets passed around the neighborhood. The whole neighborhood starts to gossip about it. That is truly Hank's worst nightmare. That is like the worst, like something so sensitive and private being aired out in public, like Hank's absolute biggest nightmare. And
Yeah.
I think that's pretty funny. But he is very stubborn. Like he's stubborn about his shit. He won't eat the bran muffins. He won't try laxative. Like if I had shit in 5 days, I would 100% down some
Bro,
laxative.
when they go to the doctor, I was like, nah, this nigga was wild. And first of all, when Peggy breaks down like his bowel, like she says that,
Yeah,
like
she's got every single thing broken down.
she says like for years he was regularly going to take a shit like every other day.
Right.
And I was like, what the fuck? Like, what, years? He should have been to the doctor. What type of shit is that?
For sure. For sure.
Nah, man, that's not, that's bad vibes, bro.
Oh, man. Let's see. What do we got here? Oh, yeah, like, one of my favorite lines about him just like lamenting that everyone's talking about it is he refers to him as toilet things, not toilet things. He doesn't want them to know about his toilet things. Man, there's some good.
This is my notes is that Hank acts like a child a lot in these early ones.
He does, yeah. He's very stubborn. He's a very stubborn guy, and he doesn't want people to know about this stuff. Like when Bobby's like, you should eat those bran. They'll help you make. They'll help you make. That's something you should never know about your father.
He's like, bro, you was in the bathroom for an hour.
Yeah.
And just like, no the fuck. Like, he's just so fucking childish. He's like, oh, was it? Fuck out of here.
Yeah, he is very stubborn and childish in this episode. I love when he's finally getting like the colonoscopy and Bobby walks in and is like, whoa, Dad, what are they doing to you? and then he's like intrigued and interested in like the doctor stuff. He's like, I want to be a proctologist. And then the face Hanks makes, and then they imply that he's like clenched his ass because they can't keep looking. They can't keep doing the thing. Yeah. Such a weird little conflict for an episode though, especially like Peggy being so worried, which I understand. Like I would be worried about my loved one too if they had this kind of a problem, but yeah, that's like the whole thing is like her being like, I'm worried. That's all this is about. And him being like, don't talk about my poop problems.
Yeah. There's another one of those dream sequences. Peggy has that nightmare that Hank passed away. And there is a crazy visual of them carrying Hank's casket, and fucking Cotton is too short, so he's just hanging off the casket.
It's so funny.
It's a crazy visual.
And then the way the casket flushes into the grave like it's a
Yeah.
toilet is pretty
Nuts.
good.
It's
They
nuts.
do a lot of those dream sequences, huh? A lot of
Mm-hmm.
dreams, a lot of memories. One of my favorite jokes in this episode is when they're trying to go get him a better diet to be able to like flush his system, so he's not just got beef shoved up in his insides. And he goes,
All right.
and they gonna buy tofu, and he's like, I can't eat that crap. And then the guy's like, well, here's what we have: faux for people for tofu intolerant alternative. Which is so funny. Is like the idea that there's an alternative to tofu is hilarious to me.
And then Hank asks, you have anything that like tastes good? And he's like, no.
Which is very vegetarian, vegan food back in those days. There was,
I'm gonna say,
much
very,
good
very
shit back then.
90s, right? Because
Yeah.
like, this podcast that I listen to, is the mic still on? One of the hosts, Mike, has been a vegan, forever, and he talks about how like people that want to be vegan today, like they got it good because like it's all this cool shit now, like all this like
Yeah.
real fly,
So
like
much
they
good
making
food.
fake meat, like all this fly shit that tastes real good or whatever. But like, nah, he was saying like we had to struggle like 20 years ago doing that shit. Like,
Yep.
he just was fighting a battle on some shit like, no, like the treatment of animals is fucked up. Like now it's like everybody's like, oh well, I could eat this because like, you know, for my body or whatever. It's like, nah, you really had to believe in that shit
Right.
like
For sure.
years ago to really get through that, because like there's a lot of shit you couldn't
I
eat.
got a lot of respect as someone who's done a primarily vegan diet for a few years. I've kind of been half and half recently, but it was so much easier to do living in a place that just has good vegan food everywhere.
Right.
It was why it was easy. It was why it was not a difficult decision for me to be like, I want to try this, because there's so much fucking good vegan food around. And yeah, for to do it back then, it was both difficult and so like, which really shows how dedicated to the cause these people were, which is cool.
Right.
It's very cool. Man. So let's see. Anything else? I love the. Yeah,
okay.
Go ahead. No, you go.
There's So first of all, I love the scene where like Peggy is just finally like, fam, all right, I can't change you, and she like breaks and like she's like really sad about it.
Yeah.
I really love that scene, but also talking about things that would literally never happen, because we off camera obviously, but me and you were talking about how Hank only cries 3 times. Apparently it's 4 because he cries here.
Oh.
Yeah.
How did I watched this one? I watched this one like last week, so I don't even remember where.
Right.
Where does he cry?
When Peggy is crying because she's like, I don't want you to die, and he's like, I'll be around, like I'm not going anywhere, and like when he's holding her, like tears come out of his eyes, and I was like, oh fuck, he's
so
crying.
Like welling up. Welling
Not
up.
like they like come down, like they stream down. So I was like, oh fuck, he's crying.
Gotta write that down. Yeah, he doesn't cry much. Maybe watch out for a video about it. Little hint.
Yeah, maybe.
I love the music when he finally poops. They do the.
I love the ending.
So
I love the that there's no talk afterwards either. They just hear the flush and everybody gets so happy.
Yes, everyone's so happy.
It's such a good moment.
It's
a great
funny.
moment.
Good episode, Hank's Unmentionable Problem. Anything else about this one? Should we move on?
Let's move on. Let's keep shit.
107 is Westy Side Story. This is the introduction of the Scooby-Doo symphones. Con, Min, and Connie move to town at the beginning of this one. And I think that's interesting that it's weird to think that they didn't always live there, right?
Yeah, that was when they showed up, I was like, oh, yeah, right, huh?
Yeah.
Also, do they keep that dog?
I think he pops up here and there, but not super often.
That's weird.
Yeah, I know.
When I saw the dog, I was like, wait, they have a where the fuck does dog come from?
It doesn't show up around much, but I think like they show Khan walking it sometimes, but I don't think it's often. But I'm pretty sure it's in other ones. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be totally wrong, but definitely is infrequently shown. This is such an interesting episode because Hank is so welcoming. He wants to be friends with these neighbors, but he doesn't understand that he's like constantly just throwing out microaggressions. Basically,
Right?
He's
Yeah.
like, "Are you Chinese or Japanese?"
Japanese.
And, yeah. When he comes out and he's like, "Oh, one of those Chinese fighting dogs," and they're like, "This is a Westshire Terrier," and he's like, "Yeah, that's what they're called." Peggy's is even more blatant. She's throwing out all of the ridiculous Chinese facts, even though they very explicitly say we're Laotian. We are from Laos, a landlocked country. It's like they explain where it is. Peggy's the one that I wrote down. Her ridiculous Chinese fact is like, did you know that in Chinese they have 72 words for rice, but no words for friend? Which is
so stupid.
An insane thing for anyone to say. But this is a really interesting episode. This is the one we kind of broached this one earlier. Because the episode's kind of about like stereotypes and microaggressions and just assuming you know something about someone else's culture without actually knowing those things, and how that can lead to friction with people. Hank's like referring to every single Asian country when talking about the Super News info. It's like he's just like mixing them all up. It's interesting. It's an interesting way to highlight this kind of conflict, especially when you make your main characters the ones who are like doing that,
Right.
Yeah.
And Hank, like, there's that crazy line where Hank is like, cause that's the thing, is like Hank and Con start to bump heads, and then Hank just kind of was like, oh, like, I don't think I like this guy. I don't think I like him. And then like, and Peggy's like, well, you gotta like him, otherwise you're racist. And he's like, he says, what does he say? He says, so what kind of country is this where I can't hate a man unless he's white?
That's a good line. But it's, I mean, like, the thing that Hank didn't realize is that, like, I mean, granted, Khan is an abrasive person, and I don't know if I would get along with Khan, but like,
but I also don't think Khan comes out swinging.
No, he doesn't. It's fully friction built up because Hank's not listening to the things he's telling him about himself, and is just making all these weird assumptions. And then like he throws it back. Like basically Hank's throwing out he's saying all these weird different like kind of throwing out these little stereotypes about him, and it builds to the point where then Khan basically is like, he's stupid Texas redneck or whatever, calls him a redneck, and he goes, or he calls him redneck. He's like, oh, just because I'm from Texas, it means I'm a redneck. So all of a sudden, Hank gets one stereotype thrown his way, and now he gets it. He gets it when it's thrown at him, but he doesn't get any of that shit. He doesn't understand that any of the shit he's throwing at Khan is the same, feels the same to him. And then he says the craziest thing he says is Chinese and their stupid stereotypes, after saying all of these ridiculous stereotypes the whole episode. Is one of the stupidest things Hank's ever said.
Yeah.
One thing I love about this episode is how Bobby and Connie just pretty immediately are like homies. They're just like, yeah, we're cool. We're friends. Yeah. There's no conflict between them. They're just like trying to hang out with, let the dogs be friends. And and that's a good start to their, I like that as a start to their friendship. Your cat opening your door, or is there a ghost?
Yeah. It's like, oh, all right. We're not about to do this. She found like a little twist tie, and now she's playing with it. Stop. All right. With it. Give me that. Come here, man. Now don't run.
It's so funny. It's so funny.
Okay. She okay, now she's looking at me. But she saw me get up and go over there and she ran.
I love you, Mo.
Yeah.
So, but there are some really interesting things about this one. Like, 'cause even after Hank blows up and like they have this initial conflict, he kind of sucks it up. They go to the barbecue and hang out, and he brings him propane. And then this is a weird thing that I feel like, I don't know. This feels like something they maybe wouldn't have done later because Hank's so like he's so like uptight about the grilling thing, but like Khan grills the best burger he's ever had. The best burger he's ever had.
That's the when I said earlier that Hank does some like crazy shit that like fucked my mind up. It was that. Because number one, when he gets there and he finds out that the burgers aren't propane, he would have fucking left.
Right.
Like he wouldn't have even like tasted them. He would have fucking left.
Yes, the fact that he cooked him without propane, and then he also was like, well, that's the best burger I've ever had. That completely conflicts with that later episode where Hank and Peggy start grilling with charcoal instead of propane, and he's like wants to kick them out of the house basically.
Yeah.
It's interesting though. It's obviously though it's just set up for the like further racist stereotype storyline that Dale incites, which is he's like, how many did you eat? Dale's like, none, I don't eat dog. And so
that's when it got crazy.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit.
And like to Hank's credit, at first he's like, that's a crazy stereotype. That's not real. Like that's not a real thing. But it does like clearly start to eat at him. And then when the dog's missing, he's like, oh my God, it's like they did cook the dog.
Yeah.
It's messed up. It's messed up. I like that he's so embarrassed that he at the end, he's so embarrassed that he even thought it. He can't even admit it at the end. We're like, the dogs are still alive. He's like, where do you think they were? He's like, never mind. I just won't even say it. I do wish that the conflict resolution had a bit more to do with them reconciling the stereotypes that they perpetuated, like understanding them better. Like, because
I get that.
Because the conflict resolution is basically them relating. At the very least, I don't hate that, where they're just like they relate over how they both punish their kids. And like I do like the idea of being like, well, yeah, like there's something that we have in common that is very easy for us to relate about. But it does feel like they explore all of these ideas, and they're really interestingly executed. And I think it is like an interesting character society study, especially of the time. But it does kind of feel like I wish there was maybe a little more of a message about it.
Yeah, no, I get you. I get you. Like I do like what they do, but I definitely, and like I said, this stuff kind of like never comes back. Like the characters aren't like this later. Like they don't. Nobody thinks Khan is Chinese or Japanese. Past this point, like not this point as in this episode, because they kind of bring it up in the next one, but like not past this season does this conversation even come up? You know what I mean?
For sure.
So yeah, I don't know. I do think it would have been like, it would have been cool to have Hank kind of say what he thought and then like learn like, and I think, I don't know, maybe that's an internal thing. Maybe Hank internally learns that lesson and that's what that's supposed to be.
Right.
But it would have been cool.
Yeah, and you can get the sense that like he was embarrassed about him even thinking it, and it's the point where he's like, well, I can't say what I was thinking. That would be embarrassing. And yeah, like I do think there's like great lessons to be learned in here, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe it is enough, but it does kind of feel like the resolution doesn't have much to do with the issues that were portrayed, right? Yeah, it's good, but I do like this episode. I think it's a good one. It's really interesting, like because there's not many. It's one of those season 1 episodes of a show that there's not really any other episodes like it in the rest of the show.
So you know what these kind of episodes make me think about, because I was thinking about this with Family Guy recently. And I think it's because I was watching an episode where they were about to close the clam, the drunken clam, where they go to
Mm-hmm.
drink all the time. And I think Joe says something like, "We've been coming here for 15 years." And then I froze and I'm like, no, in the context of the show, they just met Joe a couple months ago.
Right.
Right. And that's how that's how it is with Khan. Is like, it feels like they've known Khan for 20 years, but they've
Yeah.
only known him for like a year or a couple months.
That is
It's weird to think about.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah, like when I look at the scheme of the whole show, I'm like, well, yeah, Khan's
Mhm.
just their neighbor. And it was funny to rewatch the season and be like, oh, he didn't live there before we started
Yeah.
like when we started the show. You got any other thoughts on this
Yeah.
one? Should we move on to
Let's see. I have my notes. Said Ladybird being a slut is so fucking funny, because I think Khan calls Ladybird a slut. Ladybird a
Yep.
slut. Peggy, when Hank and Peggy are eating pizza, Peggy is eating her pizza with a fork. And my question was, does Peggy always eat pizza with a fork? Is that something that comes back? I wonder. I don't know if
gonna
she
pay attention
does.
to that as I watch through the show for sure.
And I wrote down that I like the ending. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all I got.
Yeah, it is a good ending though. It is like I do like the ending. Because it may, I get that idea where it's just sometimes it takes a little shift in perspective to be like, oh, we are a lot alike,
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah. Cool. All right, well, let's move on to 108, Shins of the Father, the proper introduction of Cotton Hill, and an insane episode, I would say. um,
Yeah, he started wilding a little bit.
Yeah, so this is the one, and not only him, but Bobby.
Bobby, for sure.
Yeah. So we mentioned this one earlier, how weird it is that at the beginning of this, Bobby didn't want Cotton to come to his party.
Mhm.
And we know that Bobby and Cotton have such a like good friendly relationship over the course of the show. So that's like a weird one at this point in the show. Well, I guess at this point in the show it kind of tracks, but like knowing what we know about it later, it feels off. One of the
Mhm.
things that changes over the show. I like how his grand entrance into the show as a proper introduction is on a horse. That's funny. Brings the horse to the party, and then I like that Bill's the first one who wants to ride on the horse. That's a very again nailing Bill's characterization,
Right, yeah,
nailing
yeah.
it. Also, there's like moments in this where it feels like it's granted, a lot of this episode is about how Hank enables Cotton's bad behavior. How Hank doesn't really put any kind of pressure up against the bad things Cotton says or does. But there's that scene in the kitchen where they're like kind of play fighting, like doing the play fight scuffle.
Yeah, that was
Weird.
that was random as fuck to me. That was really weird. Okay, Cotton cracks a fucking plate in half, right? And then instantly my brain tells me Hank's gonna be like, "Whoa, Dad, like chill." No, he still got his fit. Like, yeah, Dad. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
I know.
This is not the same dude.
It's like the most fun and playful we've ever seen Hank and Cotton be in the show, and it feels very out of place compared to a lot of the other stuff we've seen with them. It's kind of it really stands out. But it is interesting. Like there's always like, again, the season is full of those little moments that are just like, huh, this is a little off. I like the like very matter of fact way that they say that they lost the horse. Like, if we find the horse, we'll call the rental place. Like, they lost a horse. How do you lose a horse? Oh, it's pretty funny.
Bobby does the "what are you talking about" thing. Where he pulls the pants all the way up. They do it. They do that really early.
I love that they bring it back later. It's so funny.
And this is Dee Dee. This is the first time.
Dee Dee
Dee Dee isn't even in like flashbacks from me. This is just the first Dee Dee.
That's true. That's true.
And which I completely forgot that they went to kindergarten together.
Hank and Dee
Dee
Dee,
Dee
I
and
know.
Hank. Yeah, it's
I
rough.
know. I remember that.
It's
Yeah, it's
bad
weird.
vibes.
It's pretty weird. Pretty
That's
weird
bad
for
vibes.
sure.
That's bad vibes, and Cotton slapping Luanne's ass is bad vibes.
The worst, dude.
I
The
didn't
worst.
like that
I
either.
did write down how much I like though that Luanne. I love that Luanne stands up for herself. Like I mean it's like it's a gross scenario and Cotton sucks, but I love that Luanne's just like touch me again. And what does she say? She like threatens
Yeah.
him basically. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot about Luanne I like in this episode. They completely abandoned the Luanne being good at mechanical skills stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, she definitely fixes his car.
She not only fixes the car, but she like hears the problem with it when he tries to start it. She can like your cat is on the top.
Yeah, I
of your,
know. I'm watching her like through my video.
My cat's
This
laying down right here.
sick-ass
See him?
cat.
See him right there, laying down on the
Oh, I
couch
see
back
him.
there.
I do
Yeah.
see him.
But that was actually a comment I got on a lot on my Luanne video. As much as I really like a lot of what they did with Luanne throughout the show, and I did my videos kind of about a lot of my misgivings about how they treat her later in the show, because they kind of regress her a lot from a lot of the development she has later in the show, which I don't like. And it feels like she becomes second fiddle to Lucky in the late seasons in a way that I don't like. But but I got a lot of comments from people who are like, I really hate that they abandoned Luanne being good at like fixing cars, being a mechanic, because that is like a skill that Luanne could have pursued and had a pretty successful life doing probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. And they just kind of abandon it entirely. But she like fixes the car in this.
Right.
Cotton's such a dickhead to Peggy.
That's always been consistent.
Very consistent. He's such an asshole to Peggy. This episode is kind of about how he is doing that and Hank is not doing anything about it. Like Hank, not only that, Cotton's influence and behavior is just like this episode's how it's flat out unacceptable, and Hank enables it because he's not willing to press back against his father. And I will say that I do think, even though there's like moments in this, like the scuffle in the kitchen, that feel too like they're being too playful, it doesn't feel in character of their relationship later in the show. I think overall, this is a great episode that is pretty consistent with their relationship throughout the show. Like that is a problem that Hank has, and until he's pushed to a boiling point, is that he is afraid to confront and fight back against his father.
I think the puzzle pieces are there. I think Hank is kind of operating on the plane of like he either doesn't know or is actively ignoring, or both, actively ignoring that his father's a bad dude.
Right.
Like when he tells the homies that his dad's coming, he's like excited. And when he's there, he doesn't want him to leave. And Bobby doesn't want him to leave either for obvious reasons, but Hank doesn't want him to leave. And the Hank that we know now would get extremely anxious having Cotton in his house.
That's
and it would be like, fam, all you're gonna do is judge how I raise my son the entire time you stay here. So like, I don't think I want you here. You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
And like, Hank wouldn't tell him he had to leave, like, you know, but like he had to stay outside on the street and no shit like that. But he is like a child. Like I said earlier, he's a child in most of these. He's like a child excited to see his father in this one.
Yeah. And like the fact that he's not worried about or not seeing or acknowledging the ways that Cotton is being such a negative influence on Bobby is weird. Like Hank should.
Yeah, he wouldn't play about that kind of shit.
There's a whole nother episode later in the show where Buck Strickland's behavior is rubbing off on Bobby, and Hank immediately is like, "What the hell are you doing?" Granted, that is actually interesting. That's two really interesting episodes juxtaposed, because you got Hank's father and his like surrogate father figure, both influencing his son in ways that he doesn't approve of. That's interesting. Maybe there's more to talk about there in some regard. I still think the craziest part of this episode is Bobby starting the women's work riot at school, being like, "That's women's work, women," and getting everyone to chant women's work. That is
he turned up.
Insane. But I do love how just like Peggy is very straight up about it when she calls Hank. She's like, "Your son started a sexist riot at school today." I'm like, not even sugarcoating it. And it sucks that it's interesting that it needed to get to that point for Hank to do anything. But I do like his speech where he stands up to Cotton at the end. Because he stands up for both his mom and Peggy in that, and he also stands up for Bobby to basically like, you're a bad influence on my son, and I don't want you to be influencing him that way anymore. And I love when Bobby's like trying to understand what was wrong about that situation. He's talking to Hank, and he's just like he does it's like when he understands that Peggy is Hank's best friend. Like he's like, "What about your best friends? Like Peggy is my best friend." It's a great line. It's really nice.
Yeah, I wrote that one down.
I do kind of hate the last joke though, where they're like, he says, "Well, it's a great line," and it feels like they undercut it with a joke, because they basically like you need to learn that women are not put in this world to serve us. And then he was like, "All right, well, now let's order some food." And they cut out, and it's just all of these like women on roller skates and Yeah, it's kind of a bummer. It's kind of a bummer.
It was kind of a bummer. I didn't like that very much.
I get the comedic intent. Like I get the idea that you want to end on a laugh like that, but it does feel like it undercuts the message to me a little bit.
It kind of feels like a season 9 Simpsons ending.
Right. Yeah, I feel you.
Like something like that.
Yeah. Anything else about this one?
Nah, that's all I had.
Cool. Good ep though. Oh shit, I forgot the rank. Gonna have to do that. Oh no. Oof. All right, Peggy the Boggle Champ. This is a good one.
I have one note for this one.
One note. Good. I have a bunch. Okay. I love the first joke, which is them seeing the ad for the mower convention, and he goes, Sunday, and Saturday. It's so good. It's so funny.
So my first and only note for this episode is just the words "Hank of the Hill," which I sent to you before we recorded this, just to make sure that you saw it, so I wouldn't just be talking about something that you never seen before.
Yeah.
But Hank of the Hill, for people that don't know, is a very famous old ass YouTube poop. If you guys are old enough to remember what those are, and it's based around this episode. And the instant that I saw the commercial, I went, "Oh fuck!"
You just were transported back to it.
Yeah, that video is engraved in my brain. Like I can't. It was rough watching this one without thinking of like all the different cuts and shit that are in that video. So funny.
This one has so many jokes I love, and also I think this is a really good Hank and Peggy episode. I love that Sunday joke. There's like a good little sort of moment that's very Peggy, that feels like, oh, this is kind of something that informed her character moving forward, is when she like insists on putting her giant Boggle trophy next to all of Hank's football trophies, and which I love. I think that's great. And yeah, it's a good one where it's like Hank is a little selfish. He looks down on like what Peggy's doing a little bit, and he's like really just in it to go to this mower situation.
Right.
I think there's a perfect joke in this, and it is when they all leave. So it's just Luanne and Bobby home alone. And the first joke they do is they start to make it seem like they're doing risky business. And so they play the and Bobby slides in his underpants, just like in the movie Risky Business. And then he turns around and goes, Luanne, what are you watching? And she turns it and the music stops. She goes, Risky Business. And it was like, it was the music from that scene in Risky Business. It's such a perfect joke. It's so funny. God, that's such a creative, such a creative spin on the Risky Business joke. Man. But I also like the Luanne and Bobby subplot where they just like are panicking about making sure they don't mess up the house at all, and every tiny thing they do, they're like overcorrecting to the point where that becomes the problem in the tag, where they have everyone over fixing the house, and they're like, "You're having a party, everyone get out of here."
Yeah, no, man.
I really like the structure of the Boggle tournament. I like that she goes and she immediately faces off against the person who she's told is like the best boggler around, Sissy Cobb.
That woman has a wild laugh.
I wrote that down too. The
that laugh is wild.
It's like a hearty
crazy.
laugh. But the way they structure it so that she immediately loses thoroughly to Sissy Cobb and then works her way back up only to have to play her again in the finals is perfect. It's a sports story. It's like literally structured like a sports movie. You get your ass kicked at first and you work your way back up. I also like Hank not really understanding how to help. Like after she loses that first round, he tries to do what like his football coach did, and he starts yelling at her. Like, you're a loser. Yeah. You're a loser. She just starts crying.
He makes his wife cry. It's so sick.
One of my favorite jokes at the convention is that they have the virtual mower. Boomer's riding the virtual mower, which is so funny. Just like VR in the 90s.
And then he like reaches under it and he's like, oh shit, I don't have any fucking fingers because he reached under it.
It's so funny. But I really like there's this moment where they're like Hank's reminiscing about them in one of their football games in high school and how she was there to cheer him on. He was like, yeah, cheering her heart out when we were down 28-0. And like he's abandoned her because she thought she was going to lose. And so I like his little journey in this. Like if he does things that here's my note. I wrote, he does things that are very un-Hank in a good way. Like him putting on that pink coach shirt, not something I would expect Hank to ever do, but he's doing it for such a good reason that like that is motivated by his change of heart in this, that like that works so well for me.
Right.
Yeah. Also great Chuck Mangione ref in this is they go after, as soon as the tournament is over, the two announcers of the tournament go, now back to a video of the hotel fire safety procedures with your host Chuck Mangione. It's so good. This is like a great Peggy episode. I like like a real proper thorough like Peggy gets a win story. There's nothing in this episode where Peggy's like her own worst enemy, like we see later. She doesn't like have to climb out of a hole that she dug for herself. She is like confident. She's overconfident and she's very confident, like we see later, but it's just about her being good at something and going out and trying to compete at it at a high level and doing well. And it's got a nice, like, it ties nicely into her relationship with Hank as well. And he goes through a nice little arc. I like this one. Like Peggy the Boggle Champ.
Yeah, I like this one. I like this one. Thinking about flashbacks made me remember that. And the one before this, there's that wild ass flashback where Cotton brings them to the club, I think, after they won a game. It's like Hank and them. Mm-hmm. And he tries to, I think he solicits some women to like sleep with Hank or some shit like that. And Hank's like a teenager and he just like runs off because he's so terrified.
Right.
Yeah, and Hank says something
yes,
like, what kind of father will put his kid through that? I mean, do something like that for his kid."
That was in Shins of the Father, right? That was the
Yeah, it's the one right before. Oh, well, yeah, that's the one right
right
before this
before
one,
it.
right?
Yeah. He's like he goes and get them all hookers. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
not many parents would do something to their kid like that.
Yeah,
That's pretty
like
funny.
that. Yeah,
It's pretty good. All right, you got any other thoughts on this one? Should we move along?
let's keep it going. No, this is a rough one. This next one.
Keeping up with our Joneses. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. It's funny. Like it is a rough
It is
one,
funny.
but it is funny.
It is.
This is one that I feel like this is one that feels more cartoony than a lot of later episodes to me. I do like I understand why this feels like this like when somebody I can see how like in the pitching stage of King of the Hill when working out how this show's going to work, why this plot feels like a King of the Hill plot. Like this cuz there's so many of these first season episodes are like clearly like inspired by sort of just like stories of being raised in a bygone era, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
kind of like F is for Family in a way where it's just like it was a different time. And I think this was like written by people who are like, well, yeah, like let's write about all these ways that all these like all the ways that parents can mess you up. And I do at least like that though Hank forces Bobby to smoke this entire carton of cigarettes, there is not a single other person in this episode who thinks that was
That's a good
an
idea.
okay thing for
Yeah.
him to do. Everyone is like, what in the hell
What
were
the
you
fuck is
thinking?
wrong with you?
Yeah.
The only reason he gets it off is because Peggy like leaves to do something. She's like, Hank, you deal with him, and then he like, all right.
And I
Come
think
smoke this carton.
And I think he was probably thinking about it in a way that's like, here's what my dad would have made me do. Well, I don't know if
he says, here's what my dad would do if he had the parenting skills to do what I'm about to do to you. Like, which is like, so he is insinuating that doing this makes him a better father than his dad was.
Yeah. This is the one thing that everyone always brings up in my Hank and Bobby video is that, oh no, Hank's a bad father. He made Bobby smoke a whole carton of cigarettes. And you know what? No arguing. This is the worst thing Hank's ever done, in my opinion.
I'm arguing because I don't think this is the same character.
Agreed. That's my argument as well. Is like, that's the thing is like, this is so un-Hank Hill-like that it's so hard for me to reconcile it with the rest of the show. And when the rest of the other 12 seasons of the show contradict the characterization in this episode, then I just see this as the odd man out. I'm like, oh, this is just before they figured it out. This is before they figured out the characterizations. And this season is riddled with these different slightly off characterizations that they honed in on and fine-tuned later. And
people get so caught up on trying to like take these shows in totality without realizing that like shows have to have like time to develop. Like not everything has to count. Like I know y'all love to make everything count, but everything doesn't have to count. The best example of that is like in an early episode of Rugrats, like somebody asks like Chucky's dad, like, oh, where's Chucky's mom? And he says some shit like, oh, she's at work or something like that. He says something like that. And then like later down the line when they were making Rugrats, they were like, oh, I guess we never showed the mom, huh? How about we do this thing where like, right, exactly. And it was so easy in the 90s to just kind of go like, oh yeah, we did kind of mention her once, right? Well, let's just not air that episode anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And then like nobody will remember. But now since you can see everything now, it's like, oh, you remember in episode 223. Like it's like, man, we didn't want to do that anymore.
And granted, like I agree. Granted, I am someone who makes videos by like looking at the totality of a character's like journey in a show. But it is like, especially with a show like this, it's hard not to take into account. And sometimes I'll pick and choose things from season 1 if I feel like they line up with what we know of the character
right
down the line. But it is like, it is almost like, consider season 1 the trial run. It's almost like it's like a pilot season.
Exactly.
Let's see if it works.
They don't know who these characters are yet.
There is a line that made me laugh so hard all through Hank delivery that I had to rewind. And it's when he's out sitting with Enrique, and Enrique's telling him like the story about, I don't know what it's about, something about piñatas. And Hank goes, "That's quite a story, Enrique. I like stories. I like stories about piñatas." It's just, that cracked me up so much the way he delivered that. This one also has like this tiny, silly little subplot. It's got like, it's Luanne versus Ladybird, where like Luanne, like Ladybird eats something.
Oh, is her makeup?
Yes. And then so she like throws something of hers down the drain, and she's like, "See, that'll teach you to not eat my makeup," which is so funny. The idea of Luanne like getting in a real tiff with a dog is very funny to me. There's this hilarious flashback where they're like, Hank and Peggy are thinking about what it was like when they always got together and they would smoke all the cigarettes, and like there's a lot of craziness in there, but there's one where they're like on a like Splash Mountain type water ride, and they're smoking cigarettes while they're on it. It's so funny.
Fam, my second note for this episode is, these fucking losers used to smoke cigarettes with like 50 exclamation points.
Yep.
Fucking dweebs.
That is why, like, this is one specifically, even though I do think it's very funny, I laugh at this one a lot. It might be one that I laughed at most in this season. It feels, A, characterizations feel wrong. B, the vibe is so different in this episode. This is one that felt so cartoony to me.
Because the withdrawal stuff.
And it is funny. Half. It is so funny, but it is so cartoony.
But it's not King of the Hill. Yeah, it's not. It's just, It's not King of the Hill. It is funny, but it's not King of the Hill.
Yes.
And I was thinking too, is that even though nothing about this episode is like the show that we like, there is this episode establishes one thing that does come back, and it's that Hank used to smoke. Because what does he do when he thinks that with all that Debbie shit happens?
He starts to smoke.
He goes to smoke a cigarette, and well, it was fucking weed, but you know, that's what he does. He goes to smoke a cigarette, and it's supposed to be like a big thing for people that are like fans of the show, because it's like, oh shit, like they gave that up years ago. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And that's established here. So that's one thing about it.
My favorite line of them tweaking out over the withdrawals is when they're sitting at dinner, and Bobby goes, "Why's my potato got skin on it? I hate skin." I just like them tweaking was funny. It is so funny. But I wrote, like, that's what I wrote. I wrote, this episode is funny, but they're all a little too cartoony for King of the Hill. That is just what this one comes down to. This, like, even though I very much enjoy this episode, it just feels like it's out of a different show. It's like a really great fan fiction that doesn't really understand the characters. Like, that's weird. Yeah. Like even the end when they make it out. They make it out overnight. Luanne's kind of the MVP of this episode. She's the one who keeps them from smoking again. And like the end, when they get out, they start throwing the deflated football around. It's so dumb and so cartoony. Like it's stupid. Yeah. There's also one moment that is very out of character for Hank in this, which is when he leaves Enrique and goes with Peg, and he's like holding the cigarette. And he flips it into the propane. And it's like, insane. There's never a chance that he would do that. It's insane. It's a really interesting episode. And I do love watching it. I think it's very funny. It's just so far removed from what this show is. That's really interesting. It's really interesting, honestly, all things considered.
Yeah, you know what? It's kind of like No Disgrace Like Home from The Simpsons.
Yes.
How in like Homer,
you love
Homer
that
is
episode.
the one that like fucking love that one, and it's weird. That's why I think it's fascinating in the same way. Because that episode is like Homer being the one to wake up and being like, "Oh fuck, my family's a mess," which is totally out of character.
It never happens that way.
Yeah, and it is interesting to see what happens when you like take these characters and like make them completely unrecognizable.
For sure,
because that's what this is here with Hank. Yeah. So it's still funny. It's just
still really funny episode. Funny episode.
Yeah.
Move on to 111, King of the Anthill.
Yeah.
All right.
Almost there.
This has a lot of lines I love. This is a good Dale one. Dale feels very Dale in this, I will say. I think they got Dale right in this episode, generally. But I love Hank being obsessed with his lawn. Very Hank. That's very Hank. That feels like something. That feels like a vibe that they were like, this is what Hank is moving forward.
Yeah.
I like when he talks. He's talking about his lawn. He's like, I treat it with the love and tender feelings I've held back from my family. Which is very funny, very Hank. But him firing Dale is really sad. Like, he does it in front of everyone, and Dale's just like, please don't do this to me.
I think Dale was 1000% right. He's like, can you just like not do this in front of everybody? Like,
this is very embarrassing.
Why the fuck would you do that in front of everybody?
Yeah, agreed. Hank was in the wrong there.
Yeah.
Yes. But it's all because he's got this like new rivalry with Khan, right? Khan's got a nice lawn. He's like, I need to have the nicer lawn. One of my favorite deliveries in all of King of the Hill is when they go to the like gardening place and Hank sees the grass and he goes, it's Raleigh St. Augustine. That's like him getting so excited about this obscure type of grass is like a perfect Hank Hill moment for me. Raleigh St. Augustine. So funny. Also super fucking cartoony Bobby subplot. The ants controlling him, the like queen ant, like turning him into a minion ant. That is such a cartoony thing. Another like that is straight out of another cartoon. That is not very, very King of the Hill at all.
Speaking of Bobby, this one has that wild ass line that we alluded to earlier.
You're right.
Where Joseph says, he says something about, he says, my dad's truck. And then Bobby says, you mean Dale Gribble's? He said, Dale Gribble's truck? And he says, yeah, my dad.
Yeah, my dad.
And that interaction broke my fucking brain.
Right. It seems
was like, oh, shit.
Based on later episodes, it doesn't seem like Bobby is in the know about that. It doesn't seem like it. It could maybe be left up for interpretation, but it does not seem like Bobby is aware of that situation with John Redcorn. So maybe this is just a situation where it is a funny joke. It is funny. It's very funny, but it maybe feels like they hadn't just locked in how many people who knows about it, but it is funny. You mean Dale Gribble's truck? You mean Dale Gribble's truck? Yeah, this one's kind of nuts. And then like, I do think like it's a weird one because like I feel really bad for Dale at first. Hank doing that was messed up. But Dale's retaliation is insane. Yes.
Dale goes
putting
crazy.
the red ants and the fire ants in his yard, first of all, in his new expensive fancy lawn is so messed up. And then 2, for him to overcorrect when he has to spray and just destroy Hank's lawn. Brutal. Absolutely brutal.
But look, both of those things are super Dale. Like, he is in character the entire time.
True.
He is in character the entire time.
You
I
are
wrote that
not
this
wrong.
is the episode that this is the episode that essentially just explains who Dale is. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
almost in every aspect. We still haven't gotten one yet for Bill or Boomhauer explaining directly who they are. But this
Right.
is the one that like breaks down who Dale is.
That's true. This is the
yeah.
first real Dale episode. In fact, I remember watching this one when I did my Dale video, and it was the first one of the Dale episodes that I watched. Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
Hank is that you know what makes that scene so rough is that there's no fucking music or sound, like there's just sound design and then that's it. When Hank is like chasing Dale around the truck,
Yes.
and he's really gonna fuck him up, and, and Dale is so scared.
For
It's
sure.
so funny.
For sure.
It's so funny.
Poor guy. You got anything else about King of the Anthill? Anything from the back end?
Yeah, I think the I wrote down that the ending is corny, but it's kind of sweet when they all kind of show up with all that grass and like they hand him the grass.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is kind of stupid. And like he's like, I don't know, Hank gives them kind of like a speech, and I'm like, this is kind of dumb, but like it is kind of sweet at the same time. So, you know, it
is sweet. I like that. All right, let's move on to the season finale. Although, I will say, interestingly, there were 13 episodes produced for season 1, and one of them is just smack dab in the middle of season 2.
That's gross.
And I haven't watched, because the thing is that like one of the things is like the animation changes a lot between season 1 and 2, and I've never really gone back and watched that season 2 episode and been like, is this one look different? Yeah. And I feel like I would have noticed if it had, because I remember the episode, but I don't remember whether or not it looks old or not. I'm gonna go check that one out. But I also don't know if it's on the season 1 DVD, if they moved it to the season 1 DVD, or if it's on the season 2 DVD. I'm actually curious about that. So the finale, though, plastic white female. This is so funny. This episode's so funny. Also pretty cartoony, but like in a kind of a believable Bobby way. Like this doesn't strike me as too wild for Bobby Hill. This feels kind of like something he might do, you know?
Yeah. That was a little mannequin head. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I get behind that.
The montage of him like going on dates with her to wouldn't be nice is really funny. Yeah, it's a weird episode though. What's the other plot? And it's Luanne's it's all about Luanne's haircut thing because it's her mannequin head.
Right.
And that's interesting. That's an interesting plotline. So you've got this one plotline where Bobby's going to go to this party with Joseph, and it's going to be a boy-girl party, and he's kind of nervous. He doesn't know. We don't know if he's like really interested in girls yet. And then he sees that mannequin head, and he's like enamored with it. But this has one of my favorite Luanne deliveries ever, and she walks in with the head, and she's like, look at my head for the class or whatever. And Peggy goes, oh my gosh, it looks so nice. And she goes to like grab it, and Luanne just goes, don't touch it. She like screams, don't touch it. She's freaking out. She's like, but it gets it's funny, and B, it gets the like stakes across where she is like, she's really protective of this and she doesn't want anyone to mess with it.
Right.
But then Bobby like going behind everyone's back to like go on these creepy little dates with this mannequin head. It's really funny.
It's nuts.
I like the first time he goes to look at the mannequin head, like through the window, he's like out in the yard. It's like it like plays like a Hitchcock sequence. It plays like a horror movie where he's just like this creepily looking in someone's window, and they do a gag where he's like enamored with the head, and then she puts something over it and starts immediately taking off her top, and he turns away because they've put the thing over the mannequin head. He doesn't even realize what's going on. But this one makes me laugh a lot. There's a great line where when Hank's trying to like hide the mannequin head from him, and he goes, "You can't use it, Bobby. It's a crutch." And he goes, "It's not a crutch, Dad. It's just something I've come to rely on to help me through life." It's so funny.
There's a good like what's the word? It's kind of like a bait and switch, good bait and switch joke really early in the episode where Hank walks in the house and he's going through the mail and he's like, bills. Why do we keep getting bills mail? It's so fucking funny.
An incredible joke. Incredible joke. Funny. Why do we keep getting bills mail?
It's really good.
So fucking funny. I feel like that's a joke that's like perfectly emblematic of King of the Hill's style of humor. It's like jokes that creep up on you. You know? Like, yeah, it's so good. I love it so much. There's a really funny, in most of these episodes, there's usually at least one funny, like Dale being ignorant of John Redcorn situation joke. But in this one, he's like bragging about like how Joseph's going to be a ladies' man. He's like, I reckon he gets that from his old man, as like Nancy runs into John Redcorn's car.
That's bad moms. So, man, what the fuck does... Oh, man. I think it might have been about the haircut thing. I don't remember what the fuck Bill was talking about. All I know is Dale cuts him off and says, nobody cares, Bill. And then, like, that's just how the fucking scene ends.
Oh,
it's
man.
so rough.
It's so funny. This is a super, super funny episode. I really like this one.
This one has a fucking weird ending.
What with him with Bobby and Connie?
No, it ends with them playing spin the bottle, and then it lands on Nancy, and it like the last shot is Bobby lunging at Nancy.
That's true. That's true. That was
fucking bizarre.
Weird ending. You're right.
That was bizarre.
Super bizarre. It kind of undercuts how sweet the other endings are too. Like Hank saws the mannequin head in half, which is insane and very emblematic of Hank.
Yeah, he went crazy.
Who sometimes is very self-centered. He doesn't see other people's stuff sometimes, and so like didn't even think about the fact that he was just dooming Luanne. But then they have that nice ending where like he gets his hair cut for her test. She gets a bad grade, and he's just like, no, you actually did a great job. It's like, you noticed all of these weird things I have in my head. And she's like, yes, I cut around those. I know how to do that. And then the teacher is like, well, I've really gotten lost in this teaching thing. Basically, like you gave him a haircut he was happy with. That's probably should give you a good grade.
That's what's important. Yeah.
But I really like the Bobby Connie bit. It's like just the beginning of their stuff. And, I like the joke where she's just like, I've been practicing, and like kisses her hand. She's like, what a good idea. He had no idea that he just practiced kissing a hand. But I also like the line where she's like, maybe we could practice. Cause her whole thing is, I want my first time to be perfect. Hey, maybe we could practice. And he's like, you want to kiss me? He's like, no, just practice. like she's differentiating a real kiss and like practicing. But it's nice. It's a nice little setup for Connie and Bobby. Like in the first episode together, they were cool. They were friendly, and this one they got this little moment. I feel like they build out that relationship pretty effectively over the course of the show, and it's nice. It's nice. You got anything else about this final ep?
No. Just go ahead.
All right. I
Mhm.
I have a hard time ranking this season. I'm gonna be honest. It's weird. Like it's such a weird season. I like I like them all. I feel like there's few that I like. There's not that many that I love.
Mhm.
Um,
I don't know
I
if
don't
there's
know.
any that I love.
Yeah, I don't think there are any that I
Uh,
love. This is weird. I'm having a hard time. I'm looking at my ranking
cause
and I'm moving them around. I'm like, huh.
I'm looking at my number one and I'm like, damn, yeah, that's my number one.
I'm kind of feeling the same way. Um, whatever. Let's just go with
Mhm.
it. Let's just go with it. Do you have all right? Well, before we do our ranking,
Yeah.
season 1 of King of the Hill. Any other thoughts on this season? I feel like we did a pretty good job talking over it over the
Yeah.
episode, but anything else you want to add about this first season?
Mm. Yeah, I don't know. It's like it for in a lot of ways it's as interesting as the first season of The Simpsons for a lot of the same reasons, but like almost not as interesting because like the characterization isn't like night and day like the first season of The Simpsons
Right.
is, which makes that like super duper fucking interesting. And the animation isn't starkly different, which is also what makes the early Simpsons very interesting. It's like a lot of those comments that we got were really spot on, where it was just kind of like this was as figured out as a lot of like this was as figured out as a first season could be. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they had a lot of things in place that a lot of shows wouldn't have in place this early on. They had it in place earlier, down to like I said, the stuff with like even Peggy's feet being big. That isn't even
Right.
a fucking big deal until like 4 years later. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like, so I think that's something to definitely commend it on. Like I said, there aren't any of these that I feel like I love. Um,
Yeah, and that's weird because
but
to your point, like it feels similar to a season 1 of The Simpsons or Futurama. Feel like had it even more figured out, but like
oh yeah,
it
yeah.
feels similar in that it's like a little it's like interesting in similar ways that Simpsons
Mm-hmm.
season 1 is interesting or Family Guy season 1 is interesting because it's like different, but it's it's not as it's not as charming as the Simpsons season 1. I really like this. I mean, I like King of the Hill in general. I loved watching through this, and talking about it has been so fun and interesting. But like, there are like 4 or 5 episodes in the Simpsons season 1 that I love,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah, agree.
there are so many episodes in Futurama season 1 that I love,
Mm-hmm.
and this is one where I'm like, I really like this season for its place in King of the Hill history. It's so interesting to watch through and dissect it and see where things changed.
Right.
But even the episodes, like, yeah, it's just so. It's. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. It just doesn't feel like I really latched on to what
Mm-hmm.
they were doing as much in this first season of King of the Hill. I can see hints of what I would latch on to as the show goes on, but like there was nothing in this season that reached out and grabbed me in a way like an episode like Moaning Lisa did in season 1 of The Simpsons,
Mm-hmm.
even though there's stuff that I laughed at thoroughly. Really interesting, though. Really interesting season of
Yeah.
television. I'm excited to talk more about
Yeah.
King of the Hill moving forward. Not sure when we'll do that. We still have some more season 1s we want to cover before that.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, based on how much people are enjoying our Simpsons episode, I
We
almost
might
want
have
to.
to chase that.
We might have to do that. At least do a few seasons, knock out a few seasons of that. Should we do our rankings?
Let's do them.
All right, this is gonna be weird. I feel like are gonna be way off because I don't
Yeah,
even because I'm
yeah.
looking at my rankings and I'm like, is this really my ranking? I
I
don't
don't really
know.
understand mine.
I don't really understand mine either. I feel like if I did this again, it would be 100% different. I'm just gonna
I
go
do. I
for it.
do. I think I said this on here before, but I do my rankings while watching.
I
Uh,
used to do that and then I keep forgetting. I should be
nah,
doing
I
that.
feel that.
All right, I'm just gonna go for it.
Yeah.
12. Hank's Got the Willys. 11. Order of the Straight Arrow. 10, Hank's Unmentionable Problem. 9, West East Side Story. 8, Pilot. 7, Plastic White Female. 6, King of the Anthill. 5, Luanne's Saga. 4, Peggy the Boggle-Champ. 3, Square Peg. 2, Shins of the Father. And 1, Keeping Up with Our Joneses.
Okay. This is all over the place. It is all over the place. 12, King of the Anthill. 11, The Order of the Straight Arrow. 10, Pilot. 9, Luanne Saga. 8, Hank's Got the Willys. 7, Keeping Up with Our Joneses. 6, Peggy the Boggle Champion. 5, Plastic White Female. 4, Square Peg. 3, Wesley Side Story. 2, Hank's Unmentionable Problem. And 1, Shins of the Father.
Man, I had Shins of the Father. I kept like rotating because like Shins of the Father, it was weird. It was like, oh, is that really my favorite? And then I was like, but I kept thinking how like even though it's the episode I have the most problems with characterization wise, it's the one I keep thinking about most. Is Keeping Up with Our Joneses. It's like how funny that shit was. It's so
I feel
weird.
that.
It's so not King of the Hill, but it is the one that stands out amongst this as like, huh, that was doing something that is memorable. That's super memorable, you know?
Yeah,
It's weird. It's
I
weird
feel that.
because it's like it's the one I have the most problems with as a King of the Hill episode, but the ones I laughed at the most while watching this set of episodes.
I got you.
Weird one. Weird season. I don't know. I think if I re-ranked it, I would be completely different. I have like I feel like every time I do it would be different. All right. What else? That's about it.
That's it, man.
I'm assuming that the next episode you hear, man, we should have. Shoot, I'm going out of town, so this isn't gonna work. We should have done Beavis and Butthead this week. Should have done Beavis
What,
and Butthead this week.
the thing? The new
Well,
thing?
we should have done an episode on it. We should have done an episode on it to come out Monday instead of this King of the Hill episode.
Oh. Yeah, it wouldn't have worked out regardless, though.
Yeah,
Because either way, you have to leave tomorrow.
yeah, I'm out of town. It doesn't work. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it wouldn't
It's
have
a
worked
bummer.
out regardless. Even if we did think about it.
So we'll see. Maybe the move ends up being you cover these first two King of the Hill. Well, these will come out 2 weeks in a row. If you're on the Patreon, you get the whole thing. And then maybe we'll do Beavis and Butthead the week after that. Fill out a week with that one.
Mm-hmm.
Might as well if we're gonna watch it and talk about it anyways. And then you'll probably get Family Guy after that. Probably gonna get Family Guy.
Nice.
Which we recorded so long ago. We recorded that so long ago.
Nice. I don't remember what the fuck I said in that, but whatever I said, I was spitting.
I'm excited to hear it again. It's been that long.
Yeah. I don't remember.
Also, we had so much fun talking about it. We talked for 2.5 hours about 7 episodes of Family Guy. That is insane.
You can't get me to shut up about it.
We're 3 hours deep into this King of the Hill season 1 episode. This is what happens when we talk about these shows. When we talk about these shows that we love and are inspired by, we don't shut the hell up about them. So we'll see what happens when we get to longer seasons. They're gonna be crazy. We're also gonna have to dive back into Futurama at some point. Like we probably need to cover that shit. We gotta cover that shit before next year when the new stuff comes out.
Yeah.
We have to.
That's
and
true.
then we have to cover the new stuff as soon as it's the season is done airing. We have to. It's the only way. It's the only thing that makes sense.
More cartoons.
God, can you believe it? Can you believe our lives?
Man. Jeez.
We have to talk about cartoons all the time. This was great. This is a good episode though. I think this is really nice. Love talking about King of the Hill. You know, we also want to hear your thoughts because we're doing this like little season 1 mini series. So we're gonna have done a bunch of season 1s, but within a few months you'll have heard us talk about Simpsons, Family Guy, King of the Hill, South Park. Maybe we've already done Futurama. Maybe we throw Bob's Burgers in there. We're gonna talk about all these things, and we want to hear what you guys are most interested in hearing us talk about moving forward, because we do want to jump into a mini series based on whichever one of these people seem to be most interested in. At this point, I have a hard time thinking it's not going to be Simpsons, because everyone
Just
is
look at what's going
digging
on.
our
Yeah.
Simpsons ep. It seems to be doing very well for us. So we'll see. We will see. But let us know. Please let us know. Please check out the Patreon. Please follow us on Twitter. Please follow our channels and tell us you love us and sing our praises and tell your friends and have a nice meal with your family. And you got anything else? You got anything to plug?
No,
Me
man.
either.
Me neither.
Me either. I got nothing to plug.
Me
Watch my King of the Hill
either.
videos. You can watch my King of the Hill videos. That'd be
Do
cool.
that. Yeah.
I might have one out by the time you hear this. I might have. Oh, I should. By the time you hear, if you're not on the Patreon, by the time you hear this part of the episode, I will probably have a video out about Dale, Joseph, and John Redcorn. If you are a Patreon member, then spoilers. That will happen this week probably. And yeah, I think that'll be a good one. And with that, I want to thank Carrie Feek for our artwork. I want to thank Jake Neutron for our theme song. I want to thank Michael Yunez for producing and editing the podcast and co-hosting our After Dark episodes so brilliantly. Go check him out on there. And I want to thank all of you for listening to us ramble about cartoons for 3 hours at a time. Very kind of you. This is a 3-hour episode about 12 episodes of King of the Hill.
Yeah.
Thanks for rambling about cartoons with me for 3 hours, Tariq. Appreciate you. I know it's really late for you right now, and I appreciate you staying up.
So
and I know you're real tired, but you rocked it. Even in your exhaustion, you killed it. You did a great job. And I have to go pack and get ready to get on a flight I have to be on a flight in 7.5 hours. So that's great. Thank you, United Airlines. And with that, thank you very much.